What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I'm here with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well out there.
And for you guys who have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, but we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, let me know what you've been playing.
So, yeah, it's been a little bit of a while, and I've been playing a lot of things, but just a few ones I kind of really want to mention. I finally, some reason, jumped into Splitgate. I know I'm not really certain games I really do like to play those multiplayer online things. Obviously, Splitgate is all just multiplayer arena shooter, but I couldn't get over the fact that people kept talking about it, and free to play. I thought, why not check it out really quick? I like Portal, I like sort of the Halo arena shooters, so this kind of made sense to finally check it out. And I've had it on my Xbox for a while. It's just the servers I could never get into a match because of everyone flooding to the game. Finally was able to get in there and test out some of the mechanics, and I'm surprised how well and smooth this game really works. I don't know how long I really will play this. I'm also kind of worried on the legs this game will have, because a lot of that feeling you get is that what most people have been saying, that sort of Halo feel to it. So once Halo is actually here and can compete with its free-to-play model, I just think that IP has a lot with it, and people are really craving this game. I mean, you and I are in the majority of people who really want it to play Halo Infinite.
Definitely.
So I don't know if it's going to be that thing. I think the portal mechanics really work well. I thought it would be a little too chaotic from the few screenshots I've seen, and I understand when I watch like these trailers and all these people 360 scoping and jumping and all these crazy compilations I've seen. The game really doesn't feel like that ever. The game is actually a lot more slower paced than I thought. So it's pretty cool. Again, I played it a little bit, a couple matches online. I'm doing surprisingly well. I don't know if it's just because it's matching me with people who are bad at the game. But yeah, I'm surprisingly doing pretty well. I'm not super I'm not in that competitive Call of Duty 0809 sort of feel anymore. Really saving that all for Halo. So super surprising. It kind of sucks because I'm interested in the little bit of the universe and the small lore that there is, but I just kind of know there's not gonna be much coming from it unless they really go, start to add into a whole world for this this company. But I was happy to support it with the play. I'm not gonna buy the Battle Pass and stuff because I just know I'm not gonna be able to dedicate it. It's one funny feature, I guess, and I heard it's the same on the PlayStation side. So the game is in beta technically. I don't think it's going to leave beta for a while, but it has trophies and achievements, and that's really strange for me. I popped an achievement for a beta or a game in beta, so it's one of those weird mixes where it's it's kind of probably going to be always in beta. I mean, I think Fortnite is technically still running in beta, or I don't know if they dropped that moniker, so it's one of those things. And Fortnite has trophies and stuff like that, so super interested. But I thought it was a fun little testing. It just surprisingly not really surprisingly, it made me crave to play more Halo. It just got me to the point where I'm I really want to play Halo. I really want Halo Infinite. So, and then the other two things kind of connecting. So we got Sonic Colors Ultimate. I'm going to save, because the first story is about its launch and stuff, so I'll save my thoughts on the game for that. I beat it. I beat the whole game already. I didn't 100% it. I'm still doing a lot of the stuff to get the Chaos Emeralds and all that, but we're going to save that for the first story on really what our thoughts on that game is. Big thumbs up for me, though, in a quick replay. Obviously, I'm a huge Sonic mega fan. It's the series I'm most fanboy over, so obviously I'm going to be, I guess, slightly biased, but I have some negatives on it, too, and some things that I thought they would fix. And the only other thing that I've really been playing, and it just, I don't know, it worked out this way because I know we have a story about it later. I've been playing Knights of the Old Republic. I've been playing KOTOR.
The original?
I just started the original. Just started a new playthrough a couple days ago, and I mean, obviously we have a story about it later, but I thought, what perfect timing. And I still have such a special place in my heart for this game. I want to say it's been about maybe 10 years since I've played this. I am not one of those people who play KOTOR every year. I remember playing it on the original Xbox. I borrowed it from a friend. I never beat it back then. I do remember getting it at some point later on. and I want to say I beat it, but the lines blur because between KOTOR and KOTOR 2 on what I actually played and beat and stuff like that. So now I'm like, grown man. I have a whole lot more processing and be able to work with a lot of these mechanics. And it's like what a shame and what a greatness at the same time to see BioWare at like what I think is definitely like their peak. Like obviously you see what they did this, and then they went into the Mass Effect series, and what a great time to see something so like role playing. Like it is a hardcore, slower role playing. You obviously know the game. The world knows this game, and it's so great to do it. And the thing is, it's like a bittersweet sometimes, which is why the announcement we'll talk about later today is exciting, because I was like, there's a lot of lore in here that was canon before the whole Disney acquisition and is super important. And now, obviously, we know some of this stuff is being translated and moved into other formulas, and we're gonna get this, hopefully, some of this stuff canon again. Well, what a great time it is, and the game is aged roughly, but we're talking about 2003 game, I think.
Something like
KOTOR
that.
is
Really old.
Something, yeah. So it's something pretty rough, and I'm playing it on PC. This I have to play it in almost like a 4:3 ratio. My screen's, I don't have that big of a screen in it, and it's pretty rough. But it's fun to go in there, with the characters, and I've forgotten so much of these smaller characters, these smaller side quests, and the worlds. Some of the stuff, again, like I said, is of its time, especially when you're like in the upper city, lower city right at the beginning. They kind of look the same, and I get confused when I'm not in the upper city, or the north of the upper city, or the south of the upper city. It looks like it's like an asset flip, so I get confused when I'm not on. I get confused, like, I'll go to the north side, and I'm thinking I'm in the north side, but moved out all aside, just being in that realm again, in the Star Wars world. It's been a while since I've played a Star Wars game. I think the last thing I probably played was Squadrons, when it came out about a year ago. And to hear the music, to hear all these things that have been, some of these characters that are, were canon into the Star Wars universe and we've seen in the movies, is just a really great time. The mechanics, I don't think I've appreciated the sort of turn-based and all the mechanics that this game has, from the equipments to your features to all your abilities and the leveling up system. Those are things I probably really didn't appreciate when I was younger, and now that I'm into a little bit slightly more tactile games and all these sort of tactics, Gears Tactics, XCOM, Midnight Suns, that's coming out, looks great. All these games, now that I have this bigger appreciation for, I just really feel like I can see why KOTOR is like people's game of the century and forever, and why they love it, and why the reaction to one of these big announcements we'll talk about in the State of Play was what it was.
Yeah.
It's because this game is something truly special, and I guess I'm kind of on a KOTOR playthrough. I mean, there's 2 games in the series, because I was able to get KOTOR 2. I was able to get both KOTORs for $4 on Steam, so I'm playing them on PC. I'm gonna play them on PC, so that's a really cool deal.
Yeah,
all legit. I didn't, I used Wario 64, so I didn't use some Bumble website or anything like that. I used Wario 64, like he tweeted, so that's how I got the games, and that's what kind of put me on to wanting to replay them. So I'm really excited to go through these games, taking my time. I don't really have much coming out that I think is gonna take away from it. I didn't get a few of these other games that I'm gonna eventually get to, but I knew I couldn't play some of these big ones, and like Tales of Arise. I can't play KOTOR and Tales of Arise at the same time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Such big time sinks. So that's all I've really been playing. Obviously, a little bit of Sonic Colors. We'll talk about it in a minute. But Jarrell, what have you been playing?
Yeah, so I've been playing quite a bit, so I'm going to try to get to this in decent time. So last week I talked about the fact that I was going through Syndicate, so I have since beat that. Had a good time with it. I liked it generally. I do have some criticism of the fact that I feel like I understand why a lot of people weren't super hot on the fact that they didn't really do too much to innovate. But my biggest issue was more so not the lack of innovation, but more the lack of just any real impactful story. The Fry Twins were cool, but I felt like I was always kind of waiting for the kind of shoe to drop and things to get heavy and to find out that there's like darker things at work. That happens in a lot of the Assassin's Creed games where like you're kind of given this surface level scenario, but as you get deeper and deeper, you find out that there's more and more layers to this, and whether that's multiple Templar people pulling different strings around the city, and that never really happened. There was definitely people to take out and different assignments, but for the most part, it was very much a like what you see is what you get type game. The scenario that they kind of paint in the beginning of the game really is as deep as it really gets. I do appreciate the kind of checkbox mechanics, doing little activities around the town. Again, this game reminds me way more of like a Saints Row than it does a regular Assassin's Creed game, and the way that I was doing these random kind of assignments around the city and gaining territory and having my people walking around the street that I can recruit. That's like, for me, straight out of Saints Row in terms of my head. So I appreciated it in that regard. That is kind of just scratching that itch for me. But there were some areas that I felt like could have used a little bit more time to kind of flesh out a little bit more. But generally, I would say I'm pretty positive about it. And maybe at some point, I'd like to do like more of a definitive of like Jabrel's ranking of the Assassin's Creed games now that I've gotten through most of them. And so obviously I transitioned into Origins, maybe 30-40% into it now. I have taken out a number of people, but yeah, really, really positive about it. Like it a lot. It's obviously the first of where Assassin's Creed is now. It's not really a trilogy technically, but it goes from Origins, Odyssey, and then Valhalla. And so it's a very familiar game in terms of just a lot of the way the mechanics work and the way the world works. But there's things that I like about it more than some of the things that they did with like newer games like Valhalla. There's some things that I like probably more from where it's gone since Origins. But I would say overall, I think they did a fantastic job. And you could really tell that they took their time with this one as opposed to the previous ones, which I liked a lot. But you can... like, in many ways, I'm, like, blown away the fact that those were annualized. But at the same time, I'm like, you could probably tell they're kind of annualized, that they're pumping them up pretty fast at that point. This one, you could tell they really did take their time with. I think there was at least a 2 to 3 year gap between Syndicate and Origins from what I remember. And after Origins, this is when they stopped the annualizing structure that they're in currently. But yeah, Origins really, really solid. I like Bayek and I like a lot of the characters, and that's one big thing that I feel like Origins fixed that Syndicate was kind of missing for me, was just those impactful characters. And sure, Syndicate has a lot of historical figures, but I feel like the Fry twins, they didn't do too much to really characterize them so much as what their motivations were, and they kind of dabbled on that with the Morning and their relationship with their parents and their dynamic between each other. But beyond that, you don't, like, when you really think about like who is Evie Fry, what makes her tick and stuff like that, they don't really get into all that. And then that was a little bit disappointing, where Bayek is the dead opposite. I think they take tons of time explaining his trauma, his pain, his motivations, his loves, his hates, in a way that I really appreciate. So yeah, Origins, massive thumbs up from me. I do really want to briefly talk about Ghost of Tsushima, Iki Island DLC. I've been meaning to talk about that maybe the last episode or two, but I kind of just forgot. So first off, have you played this DLC?
All right, so I sort of botched the save.
Okay.
Of Ghost of Tsushima. I think I mentioned it last time, so I have to beat Act 1 again. Yeah. And I'm at the point where I just beat Act 1. They gave me like, hey, access to Iki Island is now available, and I just have not gone to it. So I do have it. I supported the development and everything, but I have not jumped into Iki Island just yet.
Okay, then I guess I'll give you guys the deep dive. So yeah, I imported my save. I got the PS5 version, and then I went straight to Iki Island because I had done everything in the core game pretty much. They added some New Game Plus stuff, but I didn't really jump into that, at least not quite yet. So I went straight to Iki Island, and I am super, super positive on it. I think they did a fantastic job. For anyone who loved Ghost of Tsushima and wants just kind of more of that, it does a brilliant job. There's actually way more missions in there than I anticipated. It's structured pretty much identically to the core game, so you get these kind of like disconnected vignettes between just random kind of goings on in the island, freeing Mongol bases, and then on top of that, it has like those weird legends where like you hear about this weird cryptic armor that this legendary figure in the past wore, and you want to go get that. They have like two or three more of those too as well. and they add pretty cool mechanics related to your horse. Lots of awesome characters that are kind of exclusive to the Iki Island DLC. It doesn't really spill in; they kind of keep it contained. But yeah, they did a fantastic job with it. So I'm really positive about it. They do a great job also making the story matter. It's one thing to add a DLC story that kind of expands on the universe, but this one actually really does contextualize a lot of Jin's character in a way that, again, it's almost unbelievable that wasn't in the core game. And not that the core game is missing anything, but that there was that much to add to the story. So it kind of chooses a point in Jin's life that is mentioned in the core game and shown a little bit, but they really kind of focus in on that. And that it does a great job of kind of contextualizing and just adding some depth to Jin and his father's relationship before, and again, sorry about any spoilers, but everybody knows, yeah, he dies. And it kind of just picks off of what that does to Jin in the core game. This actually picks up with before his death and what that death really meant for him in the immediate moments before and after that happens. And that's why I think it's just such an important DLC for any Ghost of Tsushima fans to play. If you want the full story, I think it's really important that you get this DLC. There are upgrade path concerns for anybody depending on what game you have, the PS4 version, the PS5 version. So I won't get into that because that's it's really confusing. I hate the way PlayStation's doing this upgrade crap now, but we have a whole story about it later with the Horizon thing that we can get into it. But yeah, super positive on Ghost of Tsushima. Definitely check it out for anybody who's kind of on the fence about that. And I know, Steve, you already have it, so you'll jump into it at some point.
Yeah, I should have some thoughts on it fairly soon.
Cool. And then at one of those shows, I can't remember if it was a PlayStation show or Xbox show, maybe an Xbox show actually. They showed off this game where you're a postal worker and you're kind of delivering mail. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So I played that. It's called Lake. I got it and I played through it, and I actually really, really liked it. It's important to understand. Yeah, it's an indie game. It has a lot of bugs. A lot of people experience. I didn't experience so many, but a lot of people had. I played it on my Series X. It's only on right now Steam and Xbox. I think it's not on PlayStation. Or Switch quite yet, but they might release it on Switch in the future. No announcements for PlayStation yet. But yeah, no, it's a really nice, comfy, pretty game. And basically, yeah, it's about a woman who grew up in a town but left the town to go to college and moved on with her life, and like 20 years later or 15 years later, something like that, goes back to switch things up because, her job is just annoying and grating on her soul, and she just wants to kind of pull back and relax for a little bit. And so it's really nice. There's romance options, and you really just deliver mail and you talk to people on through that process, and there's kind of a developing story. And there's even a point where you can make you could choose like one of 3 different endings depending on what your preference is for different characters and stuff like that. So I thought it was a pretty cute game. I certainly have criticisms of it. Like, there's a soundtrack to it that you hear on the radio, but it's like 3 songs, 3 like country-ish songs, and that's it. Like, they play those 3 songs over and over and over again, so that can get a little grating. But overall, I think it's a really solid experience. You can beat it probably 4 hours, maybe 3.5, 4 hours. It's not super long at all. But for anybody who's looking for a game to kind of just sit back and relax to, nothing too demanding or like grating on you, Lake is an excellent option for that. So I had a good time with that. Then I also jumped into Never Alone. This is I would say kind of like a narrative platformer that came out back in 2014, I think. But it's on the consoles now, and I wanted to check it out because from what I understand, it's done by a team like Eline. I think it's like Eline Studio or something like that. And it's basically a game that was developed in collaboration with a group of people called the Inupiat, I think it's pronounced. And they're kind of an Alaskan native people. And so they worked really closely with the elders and adapted a lot of their native story. You may have heard of this. And they adapted a lot of their kind of like native stories that they passed on over generations into a game. And through the game, they have these little vignettes and these little kind of almost like documentary slices that you can watch whenever you want, and like in only like 2 to 3 minute chunks, and you just learn a lot about their culture. So for anybody who's interested in kind of like supporting indigenous art and indigenous stories, I think this is an excellent option for you. Not too expensive. It has like $3 DLC or something like that. If you're curious about the gameplay structure, the best way I could probably summarize it is imagine Ori meets Brothers. So it's obviously got the immersion and the story and the platforming of an Ori, but it has the kind of collaborative necessity of Brothers, with exception for the fact that I don't know if Brothers requires 2 people. This game you can play with 1. You just have to swap back and forth between the characters. So I don't know exactly how Brothers work in that regard, but it is very collaborative. So if you have another person to play with, definitely suggest you play it that way. I played it by myself, and it gets kind of tough towards the end to do it by yourself. So I would highly suggest maybe picking up a second controller with a second person. It makes it a lot easier. So yeah, Never Alone, really positive about. Moving along, Hitman 3 I went back to. Hitman 2 is recently part of the PlayStation Plus collection. I already have that game, so that wasn't relevant to me. But that means the DLC also went on sale. They tend to do that. Like if they put a game in the DLC, they'll price the DLC lower. And the Hitman 2 DLC was ridiculously priced. It was like $39.99 once upon a time for the full pass. And it had a lot of missions in it, but I'm only really interested in new maps, personally, because I don't really get super deep into a lot of the storylines they always drop onto it. And so there was 2 more maps that I wanted to Hitman 2, were the only 2 maps I didn't have. Because, you can import all your data into Hitman 3 for Hitman 1 and 2. So these were like 2 maps that I wanted. It was New York and I like this Haven Island thing, but I didn't have it because I didn't have the DLC. So it dropped the DLC from like $39.99 to like $13 or something like that, or $14, which made it more manageable for me. So I jumped back in, played those, had a great time, and I looked it up. Hitman 3 was actually a January 2021 game, which I completely forgot that it was that recent. So that means when we talk Game of the Year discussion, I definitely have to put Hitman 3 in there because, man, that game is good. And even going back to just Hitman 2, they found a way to like just unify the UI so well. The fact that like Hitman 1 and 2, when imported, kind of still feel like Hitman 3. It's just Hitman 3 has better visuals, if that makes sense. So super positive on that. That maybe bought me another hour and a half or so just playing around those new maps. And then I kind of ended off also playing Sonic. Also very positive about it, but we can get into that with the story. So yeah, I've kind of been all over the place.
No, that's really cool. I'm really glad you played Never Alone. I played this game maybe back in 2014 when it released. Actually, my old YouTube channel, I did a few playthroughs of Never Alone.
I think I remember that.
I really love that game.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I kind of almost I never forget it, but once you said it, I'm like, wow, that sounds so familiar. And then I saw the photo, which is the young one with the white fox, and then immediately brought me back. So that's really great. I'm really glad you like that game, because that is almost like an underrated. I mean, it's always been rated. Yeah. It's always been rated really highly, and the critical reception was always really great.
Underappreciated, I'd say.
Yeah, but underappreciated. That's more of the word. But that's really cool. And as always, it's been great to hear your sort of your point of view to the Assassin's Creed games. That's always been something that I was interested, because as long as you've known me, I've played them usually all when they came out. I think Origins was the only one I ever came to a little bit late, because I was waiting to get a 1X. I don't remember exactly what, but I remember Origins being I was a little bit slower to get on. So that's really cool. Before we jump into the news real quick, do you plan on jumping into any of the Assassin's Creed spin-offs or such?
Yeah, definitely. So I have full intention at some point. I think I'm just going to take a big break, because playing back-to-back Assassin's Creed games from pretty much 2 straight all the way 3 to Origins, it's fatiguing after a while, especially the fact that I'm also playing Ghost at the same time, and which is another stealth assassin game. So it's just a lot. So I need a break. But absolutely, I own pretty much everything. So I'm gonna go back, play Brotherhood, Revelations, and Liberation. I think those are like the main 3 that I have intentions of playing. Also, from what I understand, Black Flag has a DLC where you play as...
That's what I was going to mention.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
So Freedom Cry.
Yeah, Freedom Cry. I'm definitely going back to Freedom Cry. That's probably the main one that I'm the most excited for. However, Brotherhood, I have played. I just never beat. I got really close, and years ago, I was like, I think I got kind of fatigued from it, because I played 2 right before it, so it was just a lot of Ezio back to back. So I wanted to space those out a little bit. So yeah, those are the main 4 I'm going back to. I know there's even more than that, but I'm not super concerned about that. I just want more ones that tie into the story in a more intimate way. And I don't know how important like Liberation is to like 3 and stuff like that. So yeah, I have full intention on jumping into the spin-offs. At some point, it's just I'm probably going to give it a little bit of a break. And I'm also trying to figure out the avenue in which I'm trying to play them. I have physicals of Brotherhood and Revelations. The Black Flag DLC I could just buy on the marketplace. That's fine because I have the disc version of 4. It's Liberation I'm not 100% sure with. I know it comes with the version of Assassin's Creed 3 that you can buy on modern consoles. It'll give you a digital version, and then I believe there is a physical version for Vita. And yeah, so I'm kind of contemplating whether I want to pick up a physical for Vita or I just want to go through the route of how it was released digital on the modern consoles now for a more cleaned up version. So I'm not 100% sure there yet.
Okay, yeah. As long as I think the Freedom Cry thing is a real good one. I think it'll be interesting, especially since you actually really enjoyed the mechanics of Assassin's Creed 4.
Oh yeah, 4 was amazing. I just don't love ship combat, but 4 is...
Yes.
When I rank it, I'm probably still, even with my problems with ship combat, I don't hold that against the game. It's still probably my personal number 1, personally, in terms of just really clean mechanics and a great story. That's probably close to my number 1. Close.
No, respectable. That's a lot of people's opinions as well.
Yeah.
Especially to the classic ones. So I'm interested to keep, once you get to it, to hear about some of that stuff. Because it's been a long time since I played those. I haven't even played all the spin-off ones, I'll admit, so...
Yeah, this is a lot, though. They came out fast, too.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
All right. So, getting to our first story, which is also / something else we've been playing. Sonic Colors Ultimate has released. You and I picked it up, the digital deluxe edition, released a couple days early. Yep. So we've been playing it for a little while now. Actually, we've been playing for like a week or so, I believe.
Yeah, like that.
But of course, there was some issues at launch. So, Sonic Colors Ultimate recently launched across Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, following a range of issues predominantly affecting the Switch version of the game. The development team at Blind Squirrel Games has promised to patch the title. The studio released the following statement, quote, "We appreciate all the feedback we received about Sonic Colors Ultimate so far. We're listening and preparing a patch for release as soon as possible. If you're experiencing any issues with Sonic Colors Ultimate, please submit them directly to..." And then there's a link provided that they ask for a bunch of feedback and stuff. And this comes from Jared Moore, IGN. So, Sonic Colors is, pretty much kind of held as the last good Sonic 3D game. It's been a while, anyway. We haven't gotten that many 3D Sonic games since Sonic Colors. But, so Sonic Colors, original Wii game. I played it when it came out. I remember kind of liking it. The story was kind of whatever, very more kid friendly in a sense, but it's all about the gameplay is king. So Sonic Colors finally we get a remake of Sonic Colors, or a remaster really. There was never DLC and launched, and a few tweaks in here, but what a reminder of an amazing game this really is. I still think this is sort of almost peak Sonic gameplay. I think there are still some minor issues, but considering the remastered part or the ultimate part, the actual gameplay, I'm playing it on PlayStation 4. I believe you have it on PlayStation 4 as well. I did not get this on Switch because I kind of knew something was in the air, especially when they said from the get-go the Switch would not obviously run at 60 frames and won't even get close to the 4K resolution. So I wanted the game to look its best, so obviously got it on a PS4, and actual gameplay is fantastic. I think this is the best Sonic has ever looked. I think this is what a Sonic game should really look like. The colors are super vibrant. The music's really on par. I think that the remix tracks that they have put in, due to some licensing issues, they had to re-record some of the soundtracks and stuff like that, and I think they sound pretty much indistinguishable, and if not better than the classic ones. I do think some of the controls are a little wonky. I've always been against having the homing attack be the same button as just a regular double jump, because that gets a little wonky when you're trying to jump platforms and there's an enemy just close enough for your red ring to catch him, and then your homing attack across a screen, hitting a spike, what have you. I think they knew this issue, which is why they have that new Tails mechanic that will pick you up and drop you off, not at your recent checkpoint, but more at that recent spot you were safest at, which takes a little long for me. It doesn't take long to load, but if I feel like Tails is just holding you there for a while, just so he can get his one-liner out and drop you out, and you can get back rolling to it. Obviously, Sonic Colors still suffers from what I think will plague Sonic in 3D space always is when you're running too fast, you won't notice that you're supposed to jump over a small platform, then you trip, then you slow down, you lose your momentum, you don't understand that you're from a distance, you won't see that you're supposed to hit square to slide underneath the thing, so you'll come to an abrupt stop. So then you gotta slide underneath it, and you're kind of slowly sliding underneath just to hit it with the boost. And so main gameplay, I think I was really happy with. I cannot for the life of me remember any of this cosmetic stuff if I was in the original one. Changing the gloves and the shoes, I think is all super cool. Do yourself a favor, everyone, play with the Sonic movie spines in it, because he looks super cool with that. I think they call it the Aurora or whatever. We got it for buying the digital edition, but which adds those little blue streaks in his spikes. I think it looks really cool. I think it's really dope. I may just be preference. I think that just actually looks really cool, like a nice balance, instead of trying to add like a fuzzy whole skin that would have made him look a little bit weirder. But it's cool, they added this extra currency to buy the shoes and the gloves to match. I found really just 2 or 3 that I cared for. Everything else I didn't really want the chrome ones or the random colored ones. But I think it's just fun stuff to add a little bit to that replayability, to get those red rings, to get those other golden coins, to do all the purchasing and things like that. So it's just really appreciative of the price. I do wish the game was slightly lower. I think this should just been $30 across the board. I know there was 2 different additional ones, 40, 145. I think that's a little much to ask for, because this is really, and I'm trying to get as much of the trophies as I can, but pretty much this is a one and done playthrough. Unless you're really into 100% of the game, doing the Metal Sonic races, and then, like I said, getting the Chaos Emeralds to get the Supersonic feature is very, very tedious, because you pretty much have to use a walkthrough guide to get these red rings, and I think that's just not a natural way to want to play a game. It's, especially a Sonic game where you should be able to explore the levels quickly. But again, the linear fact of the stages make it a little bit rough. Now jumping into the issues for the Switch version, which again I did not hands-on get it on Switch. Some reason my brother, even though he asked me for advice, and I'm sure you can know which one, still got it on Switch. He still did pick it up on Switch. If he's listening, I told you don't get it on Switch. He still got it on Switch, and he admits it. He goes, the game is a little rough on Switch. Man. He goes, there is a huge day one patch on Switch. He got his on, I guess, the initial launch. We got our 3 days early thing. There was a pretty big patch. I don't understand why they wouldn't get that patch out to some of those early reviewers and stuff like that, and early footage, because it does run pretty choppy. I've seen it, and it's hard to go over what's exactly wrong with it. I know, like, on paper, it's the engine that they put to port the game over doesn't work well with Switch, but you're going from Sonic never appearing on the screen to the colors completely collapsing, getting weird wave lines, getting complete broken, almost like someone punched your screen. You get those weird lines. I've seen tons of it. Again, some of the stuff has been fixed. Some of the stuff is not prominent. I didn't find any. Again, I completed the game, a one time through the story mode. I don't remember any glitches like that happening to me. But it is a little bit weird. I don't understand when companies won't want to delay a one specific game or game version to optimize it the best. Especially like if the Switch version was running this bad, at least don't offer that early 3 days issue, because sometimes you do get those games without those patches because the patches go live later. So sometimes you got to be careful with that, especially with the Nintendo ones that are a little bit wonky that way. So it's I'm a little surprised it runs this bad on Switch, especially considering this is a Wii game that is running. But again, it has some less to do with that and more of the engine that it was put onto, and then the studio just may not have been exactly that familiar with it. And then another issue that you and I discussed, and it's those pre-rendered cutscenes.
Yeah.
Which the game, again, like we said, that opening cutscene, the final cutscene, and actual level gameplays, the game looks so beautiful, super super crisp. It looks like I'd almost say like a 2020 game. It's super nice. But these pre-rendered cutscenes, because of the way they were originally shot, filmed, and made, you could not do too much, which gives it that weird white filter over everything, super jagged edges, everything's very blurry. On top of that, the story is not like one of the best. It's, again, like I said, it's very kid friendly.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I skipped almost every cutscene. They did look pretty bad, unless it was one that I could sort of remember being kind of maybe fun to get a quick chuckle out of me, or just to kind of see if it was all the cutscenes. But yeah, they're rough. They have that weird filter on it, and it's something they did for a while with Sonic games. So it kind of makes me think that any of these Sonic games that get this remaster Ultimate release, I know everybody's craving for Unleashed released, or Unleashed Ultimate, whatever. It's gonna have that same issue, just because that's how they were doing it back then. That's what the Hedgehog engine was known for. Even if you go back and look at Sonic Generations, that game itself from that time still had that sort of filtery look to it. So that's all I gotta say about my opinions on Sonic Colors. Also on its launch, that it is unfortunate that the launch on the Switch version is so crappy, especially when considering this used to be a Nintendo exclusive, especially for Wii. You really think it would have been able to be kind of hit the ground running, with no pun intended. But to be really crisp, anywhere else on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, I think the game is a definite buy. Especially if you're a fan of the original game, or if you're a fan of just trying to get some good Sonic games. I know it's rough out there to get one of those, especially in this 3D era. But Jerome, what did you think of Sonic Colors and the unfortunate of the Switch version?
Yeah, so I also, as you mentioned, played on PS4, so my experience on a technical level has been completely fine. I haven't experienced any major glitches or anything. Looks amazing, as you said. Reminds me how much I would love them to revisit a lot of other Sonic games in the same style. How much I would love a Sonic Generations Ultimate on like PS5. How awesome that would be. Or even a Sonic Lost World, if they found a way to do that. I would love to see those vibrant colors on like a PlayStation 5 or something like that. That would be awesome. Yeah, but I'm having a good time with it. I was kind of curious before this came out how much they were really going to do to this game, because, again, I have it on Wii, so I played it not too long ago, played it all the way front to back. It's not a really long game or a hard game to get through at all. And so I was curious, are they going to add too much? And so getting through this version, and I haven't beat it all the way through yet, but gotten pretty close, is I don't think that they've really added too much to it. I think what they have is done really, really well for the most part, from a visual and a technical perspective. But with that kind of ultimate tagline, it is very much in line of when they've re-released the Mario games on Switch, for example. The ultimate versions of that, where it's cleaned up, maybe the visuals. Obviously, this is a way bigger gap than the Mario ones, so they really cleaned it up and stuff like that. And then sure, they put everything released for it under one game, so that's really, really awesome. The cosmetic thing, I also don't remember that being in the original, so maybe that was added, maybe that was just in there and I never dived into it. I don't know. But yeah, there's not they're dropping major brand new worlds or anything like that. It's not an overall rehaul of the game of it. It is kind of just bringing it to the modern console. So I'm glad people are finally able to experience. And it is a reminder for me that there really is, to me, this is the quintessential 3D Sonic game. Because as far as Sonic games go, obviously there's that original trilogy I hold in really high regard. The adventure games are personal favorite, but I would never say they're objectively good. But this is, to me, objectively very quality Sonic, really high level. So I think it was a really smart for them to go back to this game specifically as a kind of way to bring back, because I think this is just a great showcase of a game that aged really well and had a lot to offer to the modern space, especially with the fact that Sonic is in a very interesting spot right now, having Forces be the last major offering and the next one being some time off. This is, I think, a really good one to return to, and I would love to see them bring back, I don't know, Unleashed. I think that would be really interesting to see how that feels on a modern console. So there's lots of places for them to go from here, but I'm overall really positive about it. The Switch thing didn't surprise me at all. A lot of games have been having difficulty on Switch. The level at which this one is malfunctioning, I think, is kind of crazy to everybody. Watching some of those videos, I'm like, holy crap. So that's really a shame, and I'm sure that's really annoying for a lot of people playing on the Switch. I avoided the Switch for that exact reason. The one thing is, again, I have this on Wii, So the things I'm looking for Ultimate personally are that increased visual fidelity and the increased frame rate. And you're not going to really get that playing on the Switch version. So I didn't even bother with it. I figured I was always going to play on either Xbox or PlayStation to be able to take advantage of those new offerings. I had no reason to get the lower SKU version, again, because I have a lower SKU version, the Wii version. And I'm sure the Switch version, one is all said and done, will still look and play better than the Wii version, of course. But I wanted that kind of highest fidelity experience. So hopefully they're able to fix that pretty well. But I mean, it's simultaneously like a shame and also like the most Sonic thing ever. Like to just come out of this shape. When as a video, I'm watching these videos of just the light changing all colors and the world just breaking around them. And I'm just like, oh, Sonic, man, you really can't get a break, can you? Like every time it's something a little bit good, that there's always something that comes with it that's just nonsense. So it's hilarious, but at the same time, it's a shame because I'm just like, man, it's always Sonic, I swear.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, it is.
But yeah, overall, I would say I'm pretty positive about it. Again, like the Cyberpunk thing, you and I played on that higher SKU hardware, so we didn't experience some of the worst experiences that the game has to offer. So I guess in that regards, we're a little bit in a privileged position. But yeah, my sympathies go out to those people who played on Switch, and hopefully they can get that fixed up soon. But yeah, this looking at the visuals, this reminded me a lot of the videos of when people try to emulate PS3 games. So that tells me it's definitely like an engine issue and less of an optimization thing, and it's just not jiving well with the Switch hardware. For some reason, I'm not like a developer, so I can't say specifics of what's happening. But hopefully they can fix that, and if it takes some time, hopefully they find ways to either delist it or get people their money back, so people are not just sitting there with a broken game. But I don't know the full extent. I know there's a lot of visual glitches. I don't know how many are like game breaking and preventing progression, so that I don't know about. But if people are not able to play the game, hopefully they find a way to rectify that on kind of like the financial side.
Yeah, hopefully, because I know. I mean, some people purposely look out to break the game. My brother who played it, he's like, it glitches here and there because it's nothing terrible. Because sometimes, Sonic will just get permanently stuck in a corner or whatever. But each levels are only 3 minutes. Really quick. If you're taking your time, so it's not the biggest thing if you have to restart. But regardless, though, you can't release and should not release a broken game in a sense.
No doubt. So I guess we can move on to a really important story. So this is a Bloomberg article by Malathi Nayak, Mark Gurman, and Jeff Feely. And this is kind of a follow-up to a story we talked about a while ago. And I told you guys that we'd be coming back to this at some point. It's that Apple versus Epic thing about monopolies and workplace, the e-store and how much they charge versus what they can link to and all that. So we finally seem to have a ruling. So a federal judge said Friday that Apple must let developers of mobile applications steer customers to outside payment methods, granting an injunction sought by Epic Games Inc. in a year-long battle. Now, the judge did not necessarily support Epic's claim that Apple is a monopoly. However, the judge, Gonzalez Rogers, concluded that Apple had engaged in anti-competitive conduct that harms consumers by preventing them from being able to get cheaper prices. Apple must allow for linking to third-party marketplaces. Now, if you remember, as a little bit of a refresher for you guys, this all kind of stems from Epic not wanting to have Apple get that massive cut that they got. I forget what the percentage was, maybe it was like 30% or something like that. So they were redirecting people to buy DLC, or not even DLC, but various microtransactions on their own storefront within the game that was listed on the iOS store, for example. And Apple has a policy against that, where basically any purchases in a game that is listed on the Apple store have to be routed through Apple so they can get their cut of it. And Epic found a way to bypass that. And so this is what all this is about. And basically, the judge is saying that they're not necessarily a monopoly. However, Apple has to let them be able to run their microtransactions however they want, because, it's anti-competitive. Because then that means that Apple can basically, and not necessarily set the price, but there'll be a fixed price, and any cheaper options on that platform can't fully be exercised. So people can't find cheaper options elsewhere. So this is, I think, a generally pro-consumer outcome from what I'm able to interpret through the story. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, what a weird, and we summarized it, in a quick context. I started to read like some of this bigger legal thing, and it's complicated. I had to find some other people to kind of re-explain to me, and in a sense, they both won and they both lost, which is an outcome not many people really saw coming. But I do think it is a little bit more consumer friendly. I no longer have an iPhone, so the actual Fortnite on iPhone thing doesn't really affect me. But I think this at least now puts it into talk, because now this is a case people can keep referring to when companies want to start throwing that whole monopoly term at each other. This is going to be something that they can use as a reference and to start these battles. I think it makes sense. I think it's understandable why Epic did this in the first place. I mean, after a week, I think after Epic did this, I mean, they quickly changed. It was so weird. It was like a week after, and no one talks about it. But Google Android also did take down Fortnite off its store. You have to download it through an Epic Games app. You have to install unconnected to the Play Store, so it's not like just Apple. But I think, we're gonna have to continue to see the actual outcome and the role of this if Fortnite ever, or if any Epic game really comes back to iPhone and Apple products. But this was like one of those weird turns where it's like I didn't expect this. I expected like sort of, I guess, a clear winner, and then we literally got the reverse. We got both companies losing, and both companies winning in a sense. So it's really interesting, and it's something that I just keep my eye on, because it's like we got to see how and when this will start to bleed into other companies when they start to have these issues. But we'll have to kind of keep an eye on it. But that's all really I think. It's just really interesting. And I can't wait till someone have that HBO documentary about this, because I gotta hear it. I gotta see what was going on.
Yeah, just it's kind of like a single battle war won on the giant corporation wars, but I'm sure there'll be lots to come. So
yeah, interesting. But yeah, and as always, when there's another segment or chapter in this, we'll have it here with our small thoughts on it.
Definitely.
All right, the next story, small one coming out of nowhere though. So a major rumor has been floating around that Titanfall 2 was and is compromised and has been hacked. The rumors appear to stem from this screenshot of a Discord announcement, which has been making the rounds for most of the day. Apparently, there's a bug in the game that allows local code execution from Respawn servers, potentially affecting both PCs and consoles that Titanfall 2 installed. Twitter post with Discord full announcement. We'll link it below. This comes from Cat Bailey at IGN. So yeah, this was a weird one that came out, and essentially, it seemed, the way it was shown and the way everyone was talking about it when I saw it. I don't have Titanfall 2 installed anywhere, but it seemed like it was an official announcement from the team over at Titanfall saying, uninstall Titanfall 2 because you can be hacked and your location and all this other stuff can be compromised and leaked. And I thought that it was absolutely insane. This kind of continues on something from a few months ago when people hacked into Titanfall 2 to post that Titanfall 2 had too many hackers.
Yeah.
If you remember that whole issue, which was bizarre. So this is sort of still unveiled. We don't know to the extent of what is being compromised and what it is. I know some of the developers and a few people, EA has a small team still working on Titanfall 2 to keep the PR looking good for it. But Titanfall 2 has been, again, I was never big on Titanfall 2's multiplayer, but I know they have been really under just stress ever since they released Apex, and the Titanfall 2 was really just tossed to the side. No one's keeping those servers really controlled. Hackers have been crazy, and now to the point, like, if this is true, this is a big deal. This is where you start getting some lawsuits if people's local code and execution and all the different things that they were claiming could be leaked from obviously everything always boils down to money, but location and doxing and all these crazy things. And I just thought that this was so wild because Titanfall 2 is a great game, the campaign, but it is truly it's not relevant anymore. EA killed it by shoving it in between all those games of its own. I think they release it like right between one of the Battlefields and before the Call of Duty, and
yeah,
it's
really close to it. They messed up the launch.
yeah, you messed up the launch, you killed it, and you had a fan base who was just adored this game and are still trying to play it. I mean, good for them to support and just keep trying to play it. But now you're at the point where it's like, is it going to be easier to just flip the switch, and now you got to get everyone mad that you shut the servers off, but because there's a potential opening somewhere that could be more hurtful than anything. It's one thing to have a bunch of people mad at you. It's another thing to have people mad at you because they've been hacked or a leak or some sort of issue. So, how'd you react to this?
Yeah, I had a similar reaction to you when I kind of first heard it. Where I just kind of feel bad for Titanfall. It's like, man, these guys can't catch a break. Like, again, it's an excellent game. But yeah, and it's also I wanted to like follow up on this because I was like, has Respawn said anything about this? And it's like, apparently they said that they're investigating, but right now they're kind of quelling any major ideas that there was like a serious compromise of information right now. So we don't have any concrete information from Respawn side about the extent of this. But they're apparently looking into it right now. So I would imagine by the next episode, we'll probably have a much fuller vision of the extent of this breach. Because keep in mind, these are Titanfall users right now that are reporting this on Discord. So this is not necessarily from the developer side that we're getting this. That doesn't mean that it's not legitimate, but that means that a full investigation hasn't completed itself. So we don't know the full extent of this. But yeah, from what I understand, Titanfall's been having some issues for a while now. And it probably hasn't been getting the level of oversight and scrutiny that it probably deserves. But again, it's been quite a while, Titanfall. And I wouldn't be surprised if all this kind of results in the online portion of this game kind of getting shut down completely. And to some degree, it delisted and then reposted some fixed version of it. That's my anticipation for what they're going to do. If this hack is legit, you need to find a way to get at least new people not buying into it, closing it down, shutting it down, and then kind of taking it from there. So hopefully they can get this solved quickly, and hopefully nobody's information has been like seriously compromised. But yeah, it's such a weird information. It's kind of just such a modern age story, the fact that people are able to get access to some weird like launch code stuff. So it's crazy stuff. But yeah, I'm hoping they're able to turn it around. And I mean, I'm always, when I see Titanfall and popping up on the feed, I get excited because I'm like, oh, Titanfall 3, and it's like, no, just it's more unfortunate news. So
Yep, absolutely. Unfortunately.
All right, so I guess we can move on from there. We have a story about the Horizon upgrade path. This was kind of a controversial thing. We have Joe Scrubbles here from IGN. So let's just get into it. So PlayStation boss Jim Ryan announced in an updated PlayStation blog post that Horizon Forbidden West will offer a PS4 to PS5 upgrade path. Players that purchase the game on PS4 will also get a PS5 version at no cost. Now, some people are probably going to hear that portion and say, yeah, okay, that was always a plan, right? Well, not necessarily. So Ryan also announced that moving forward, all first-party PlayStation exclusives that are cross-gen will offer a $10 digital upgrade path regardless of whether or not you purchase the game digitally or physically on the PS4. The PS4 to PS5 upgrade path will include the upcoming sequel to God of War and Gran Turismo 7. So this comes after this whole announcement comes after Sony originally announced that the PS4 cross-release games would get free upgrades, and then they announced after that fact that to get the PS4 and the PS5 version, the only way to do that was to pre-order the $79.99 digital deluxe version or higher, and obviously there was massive fan backlash, and then they switched back to their original course of action, kinda. So this has been an insane mess, and some people are more forgiving than others. For me, I have an enormous problem with the way Sony has been handling this upgrade path because we have such an obvious example of how to handle this, and they're acting like this is such uncharted territory when they don't see that Xbox has handled it pretty much perfectly. The exact version that if you buy one version, when you upgrade, you decide to upgrade your hardware, the software will come right with you and upgrade as needed. It registers what hardware you're playing on. It makes sure that you have the newest version of it. And I believe it's called Smart Delivery, I believe is the term that they use for that. And it's worked beautifully as far as I'm concerned. I've played multiple cross-gen games on Xbox, and it's pretty much seamlessly upgraded them as needed. So I'm playing on the Series X version. That's it looks beautiful. Valhalla worked perfectly. I didn't need to go into the store and make sure I'm on the right version and play the upgrade and then import my save and do all that. Like, it was none of that. It was just it auto synced my save, it auto registered what version I'm on, and made sure that I was playing on the newest version of that game, and it was a beautiful thing. And so PlayStation has had a lot of difficulty with that for some reason. But that's an entirely separate issue from it. Seemingly, they had the free upgrade model. Then they decided to make it not only paid, but super paid. And then they're like, oops, sorry, we understand that that's not customer friendly. Let's go back on it. But now they're kind of changing the policy in general with this $9.99 upgrade going forward for all the cross-gen titles. Which, again, I'm not entirely upset about. $10 is not obscene to get the upgrade version. It is what it is. Obviously, I'd prefer free, of course. But $9.99 is not egregious as far as I'm concerned, or $10. But I think it's just a change of messaging and them trying to get away with something and getting caught. And I don't think they expected people to be keeping such a close eye on that. But to be honest, when you have Xbox getting it so right, when you divert from that, and it happens in the other direction all the time too, people are going to call you on that. You know what I mean? So nothing makes the lack of first-party exclusives on Xbox more obvious than PlayStation's abundance of them. And so nothing makes PlayStation's customer unfriendly practices more obvious than when you see Xbox doing very customer friendly things. And so that's kind of the way I'm taking it, which is just, I think Sony tried to do something a little grimy and they got caught pretty much. And I feel like it's just, they kind of need to get with it, and they're acting like they're treading new ground when they literally just need to look across the pond really quick and just see how to do it. But maybe there are just technical limitations on the PlayStation side that are preventing them from making that such a seamless process. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's the flip-floppy nature of it that goes off, especially with Horizon. Because the main issue that came up was, and it's something that many people forgot, that Jim Ryan himself had said at launch that all the launch cross-gen games would be a free PS5 upgrade. That's what we were told.
All of the cross-gen ones, yes.
So that's what we were under the impression. Okay. And Horizon for a long time was considered a launch game, was going to come out this year. Kept getting delayed. And I don't know if it was just they forgot they said that, or they were like, well, now that Horizon isn't a launch game, we can charge $10 extra. But the thing is, it's not even that. It's like, you made it so difficult. If they would have came out and been like, all right, you got to pay $10 to get the PS5 version, I think it would have been a whole lot less than, we're going to block the PS5 upgrade. And it was a terrible name, the dual entitlement.
Yeah.
Which was so disrespectful. That was really disrespectful.
It sounds grimy.
I knew what they wanted to say, but I mean, did Xbox really copyright Smart Delivery? You could have just come on. But the fact that they were locking that behind the $80 digital deluxe edition and stuff like that is where the real, from what I saw, that's where the backlash really was. It's like, now I have to pay $80-$90 now on my PS4. So when one day, if I can get a PS5, I can then just download the PS5 version. I'm like, I think that's really where it was. Again, I would love for them to be able to I can put my game in, it'll tell me, you for free, you want to install this version or this version. No problem. Because Xbox, again, kind of does it. As long as, the only issue is if you try to install a Series X game on a external hard drive that's not the SSD chip thing.
That gets complicated, yeah.
That gets a little complicated. I've only ever had that happen one time, where it's like, I don't remember what I was installing, and they're like, I think actually it happened with Psychonauts 2, where it some reason chose to install it on my external hard drive, which is not the Series X SSD, but it warned me. It said, hey, for you to run the Series X version, you should install it on your internal hard drive. And again, simple language. So when you have PlayStation coming out and just botching it, instead of just being like, hey, to go from PS4 to PS5, $10 upgrade, which most people are kind of used to. It's what we had to do for Ghost of Tsushima. Yep. I think that's what you have to do for Death Stranding. Actually, no, I think Death Stranding is a different thing because of the whole director's cut. But regardless,
that might be a separate game.
yeah, I think that might be a complete separate thing. I don't know if there's an upgrade feature for that. But it's the small things. But it's like we didn't get this with Final Fantasy VII. We just got the free version. As long as you didn't use that PS Plus version that came out, you got the free version of the PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII. Saints Row, I had just played the PS5 version of it, and I have Saints Row 3 Remastered on disc for PS4. So it's like you knew we were okay with it, right? We were not okay with it, right? But we were less hurt. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I assumed, I'm like, well, it'll come out $10 when you want to switch to PS5. It kind of is understandable, and it's somewhat you can justify it. My big thing now, I'm glad they fixed this and the fan backlash and all that kind of stuff. And I know they did say now, God of War and Gran Turismo are going to be separate. Moving forward, it's going to be $10, to switch from PS4 PS5, excluding Horizon. My only understanding is now, though, is why would I pay the $10? You and I have PS5s.
Yeah. Why
would I buy the digital version of Horizon for $70 when I can just buy the $60 version and get a free upgrade to the PS5? Correct, so it's like, and I know that $10 is not going to break the bank. Sony's in the black by margins. So, and I don't know, just being me, and I just, once it's time for the Horizon to come out, if it really is going to save me, and it's more than $10 with tax, you're looking $15 and then have that free PS5 upgrade. Is it going to really be the difference? So that's where it's like now you're confusing, and they're running in circles and shooting themselves in the foot because of what you guys said. It was like you guys said at the beginning that the launch cross games will be the same thing, and I think this would have all been just ameliorated and not had been an issue. Is charge the same price, whether it's on the PS5 disc or it's the PS4 disc for these cross-gen games at launch. $60. What was the issue? And then you could have kept the Demon's Souls. The Ratchet and Clank could have been the $70 to really show that they're PS5
the proper
games.
PS5 games. Yeah, I agree with you completely.
So that could have been, and boom, problem solved. And you pay. Let me tell you, the people you're paying in those conference rooms make a whole lot more money than me. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Save, because you're making money on PS5s. You can't find them. They're being sold out constantly. So that $10 for the few games that you did have at launch really wouldn't have done it. And you would have won the PR. You would have got the PR. You would have got people being like, awesome, I bought Miles now, and now when I finally got a PS5, I got Miles on the PS5 version. And same for Horizon and everything else that would have come out. It's just weird that they just almost forgot what they said, and like you said, don't know what to do when you have the competitor who's been more than nice to you guys, is congratulating you guys on Twitter, and you guys are silent. They say nothing to Xbox. Xbox is giving them all the praise, and they say nothing. And all you gotta be like, man, you could even make it a Twitter publicity stunt. Be like, hey, Xbox, can we borrow that term? And I'm sure behind the scenes it's money handed. But come on, make it fun and be like, all right, guys, we know we've been messing this up. We didn't know really what we were doing. But PlayStation is in this super business mode, and since they don't have, the people just coming out and representing, you have this debacle and you have this nonsense talk. And that's why you get this complete, egg on your face. And then a week later, you got to fix it. And now the PS4 version of Horizon is going to have crazy sales. And it's almost guaranteed the PS5 version is going to look like it sold softly. Because everyone's going to use that free upgrade.
Well, that's the funny thing is that kind of like theoretical situation that you put forward actually does currently exist, and that is one of the limitations I would say of smart delivery, which that's already happened on the Xbox side, which and they have free, not even paid upgrades, where like I buy the Xbox One version of lots of games and just upgrade it for free to the Series X version, and it saves me like $30 sometimes, like $20-$30 because if you go straight to the Series X version it's $70, but like I did that with I think like Call of Duty, and then I also did that with Watch Dogs Legions, which again must remind you guys, absolute stinker. Don't get it twisted. Me mentioning is not I'm not condoning that game. Stay away from that. That game is a plague. But besides that, I just bought the last gen version and just upgraded it for free, and I have a Series X version of the game that I spent last gen money on. So certainly there are issues on a corporation side where I understand why they'd be hesitant to do the free upgrade situation, especially if you consider like historical precedents with the fact that like when you had a PlayStation 1 game and they released something like on PlayStation 2, like the same version, the PlayStation 2 version, there's no upgrade path there. But obviously there were technical limitations at the time that didn't offer that. Or same thing with like Last of Us on PS3, Last of Us on PS4, separate games, different SKUs, you pay the game again. Obviously, with digital storefronts now, things are different, and so upgrade paths to some degree need to exist. But the main reason I think these things need to exist and be very easy is because we're in a transitionary period still for these consoles. These consoles are not readily available. The average person cannot walk into a store and still can't get a PS5 or a Series X. So in the meantime, you have lots of people stuck on last gen, and you need to offer them for at least the next 18 months to 2 years an easy path to take their library with them, not only playing PS4 games, but be able to upgrade them to the PS5 games in a cheap manner. And so I feel like PlayStation's trying to find that way to be like, okay, well, we offered you the upgrade path during the launch, but now we're full next-gen mode. It's like, no, you're in full next-gen mode, but a vast amount of consumers are not. We're talking about like 100+ million people on PS4, and the PS5 numbers are somewhere around 10 to 15. So a vast majority of people have not converted yet. And obviously when it's all said and done, a lot of people will come over. Who knows how much the PS5 is going to sell when it's all said and done. But lots of people, at least 70, 80 million people are still on last gen. And it will come over at some point. And so you need to make that process not only easy for them, but available to them when they're able to. And so it seems like they were trying to like get rid of that system before vast majority of people were even over yet. So that's the main issue for me, is they're kind of trying to rush the process. But it's like, until you solve the scarcity issues, this system needs to exist. And so I'm not necessarily mad with the upgrade path. Obviously, everybody's mad with them going back on their word. So as far as I'm concerned, everything in proximity to launch, and to me, launch means when you put out a console to when it's like widely accessible, almost. So that first, again, 18 months, as far as I'm concerned, should have that. So I think this should be relevant to Horizon, definitely. And I think you can make a strong argument it should be a free upgrade for God of War. Gran Turismo, I forget when that comes out, so I'm not 100% sure. Do we have a date on Gran Turismo?
I think in the state of play, I think they said March. I want to say March.
Yes,
is kind of like dinging something in my head.
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, that should fit into that window as well, the 18 months from launch. And I think that's fair to have a free thing. Now, beyond that, do I expect conversions from PS4 to PS5 for free forever? No, not necessarily. I wouldn't be so. And I think the like a $10 upgrade path going forward for cross-gen games in perpetuity, I think is fair. But for at least those 18-month period, I think trying to find ways to extract as much money out of these consumers as possible should have limitations. Like, I think they should slow their roll on that. Like, I understand they make a lot of their money on the software side. So every dollar they can get, they're going to go for it at least. And they're going to hit. Sometimes they're going to fail sometimes. But I think to a certain extent, there's really something to be said, and Microsoft has shown this, that sometimes player friendliness can really be profitable. It might not be profitable in the short term, but I think over time, that loyal base can really sustain something. And I think Game Pass is a perfect example of that, where like that loyal base keeps that platform going, where at any time in history, any other platformer, that would have been making them hemorrhage money. But there's something to be said there that when you kind of put the player first, and finances not necessarily second, but kind of just prioritizing them, it can actually be really profitable in the long end. But again, I'm not the business guy. That's just kind of my outside observer point of view.
Yeah, I'm just hoping this is sort of the last of this little debacle. And I think it will be, because again, we really only have those other two titles, God of War and Gran Turismo, that is essentially going to be on this PS4, PS5 cross-gen path thing. They were both, quote-unquote 2021 games, which we both knew. I thought maybe Gran Turismo would make it, but we know God of War wasn't coming out this year. So we'll have to see and hopefully not see anything. I just hope this kind of, it's going to come and go, it does its thing, and eventually they hopefully just lock it down in the right way. And like you said, future games that we don't, some of these games, especially we're about to discuss the state of play, some of these games that may be coming to PS4 that we don't know, hopefully we'll just do that $10 upgrade fee. That's it. No more. Don't lock it behind digital deluxe and all these other DLCs.
Was ridiculous.
That's where
the
I think
big thing, yeah.
That's where I think the real issue was, because even I was confused on that chart, and I'm like, what? And I just have a PS5. I'm just gonna buy. My plan was just to buy a PS5 game. I didn't know what all that other stuff was. All right, but let's get to the last story, but it's gonna be a bulky one, obviously. Finally. Yeah. After getting some negative there on Sony, we can get some real good positives. And you and I have not discussed this off cam because we've been kind of saving it for this. It just happened this Thursday, lined up perfect. We finally got a state of play. We finally got a state of play with some really exciting announcements. I wore the wrong shirt. I'm wearing an Xbox shirt today, but I've been super on PlayStation lately because of this event. So I guess we're gonna go through it. Some of the stuff we'll probably go through pretty quickly, but some big announcements, some just updates and stuff like that. So the big one, and I mentioned it slightly earlier, and we discussed this rumor, I think, when it was first starting to bubble up a while ago. Knights of the Old Republic is getting a remake. I kind of can't believe it. I've seen the little teaser multiple times. The rumors were almost exact, even to who was doing it. Aspire, they're the ones who've been porting like all the Star Wars games as of late, like all those ones over. They also did years ago they're the ones who brought Knights of the Old Republic to like Steam and PC and stuff like that. So they've had their hands on this for a while, which makes me feel a little bit better. Now the big one coming out of nowhere, it is going to be a timed exclusive on PS5. It'll also be coming to PC, but their wording is very technical. At launch is a PS5 exclusive and will also be on PC at launch. So Xbox will eventually get it. I think that would have been astounding if they did it, because this was this is an Xbox game, an OG Xbox game. Before you came to PC, it was an Xbox game. But Knights of the Old Republic getting a remake. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about this. Obviously, we kind of knew that there was rumblings about this. But yeah, I'm loving that this is happening. Timed exclusive, that's a major get for PlayStation. So that's one of a couple major gets that I wouldn't have guessed Sony be able to secure. And so amongst obviously Final Fantasy. So this is actually a really, really big deal. One of the big things that I'm interested in, well, two major points is, with this being a formal, dedicated remake, first off, obviously this is going to be way off. There's going to be a number of years before this is out. How much of the original gameplay style are they going to keep, or are they going to make it too active, fully active? Like the game industry has changed dramatically since those days. And so I'm curious to see how tactical they keep it, or how active they make it, to see if that maybe, with seeing success of like a lot of the open world action ones, kind of like a Fallen Order and stuff like that, I wonder if that's going to influence them to make it, maybe take the story of KOTOR, but maybe make the gameplay style a little bit more accessible, because again, that's not necessarily accessible gameplay style. I like it, a lot of people like it, but that kind of like tactical turn-based type thing that they did in the original wouldn't necessarily translate as cleanly today with a brand new game. So I'm curious to see what they do there and how much they keep there. I'm curious about the team, Aspire. So obviously excellent port studio. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but like they've made some excellent ports. They've had their hands on this IP, as you said before. I'm curious. This is, I think, one of the boldest, largest projects they've ever taken on. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, seeing a team like Aspire take on a full remake of their own ground up, not something just taking existing code and making it work on modern hardware. There's fundamentally different assignments. And so obviously this brings me back to like Bend vibes when Bend was making that transition. So I think Aspire, this is going to be a massive make or break moment for them. That if they're able to pull this off, this is definitely going to put them in a different stratosphere or a different category that they've been in since previously. So this is going to be big for Aspire if they're able to pull this off, and I'm pretty confident they have, because if anybody knows KOTOR, it's them, because they've been actually handling it for quite some time now. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's exciting, and I'm curious too on what the gameplay transitions. People are like, "Oh, is it going to be it can't be a shot-for-shot remake. Some of those mechanics, especially that big, like you walk into a room, the enemies are there, the whole game pauses.
Exactly.
So you can do all that clicking. That's not gonna work.
Those were technical limitations at the time that they don't need to do now.
Exactly. My feel, like when I kind of picture it, is maybe almost like Final Fantasy 15 style, where it not auto plays, but like goes as you're directing it, and that's, again, I don't know what that looks like in a Star Wars realm when you're in tight ships and corridors and stuff like that. But I mean, again, I'm sure they're gonna nail it. I hope so. Like you said, if they nail this is gonna push Aspire to be up in front, and you have to assume that if this gets critical reception stuff, they're probably gonna almost immediately do the second one. And then maybe even get lucky enough to do a third, which is something people have been wanting for a long time. It's really interesting. It's really interesting to see this, and it's to start off a show this way.
That's
big
crazy,
move, a huge move by Sony to start. When I started this stream, I'm like, okay, they're announcing a Star Wars game. And I saw Spire. I'm like, that's the rumored studio, and then. Oh man, then you see the title screen and everything. What a fantastic way to start the show. Bold move starting the show this way.
Yeah, you know what I was also thinking in terms of how it can look, but then retain the original spirit of the game? I was thinking, do you know when you cast spells in Final Fantasy VII Remake where there's that kind of slowdown thing? So yes, it's active when you're playing, but when you're actually doing the more tactical things and casting spells, they do the slowdown mechanism. And I immediately thought of that, and I'm like, maybe that's how it can look, where like it doesn't immediately freeze. So there's an active component to it, but it is very much still tactical, and you still have to like cast things and be aware of your placement and who you're fighting and the damage and everything like that. But so it's not a classic kind of action RPG in the way that Fallen Order is, but at the same time it keeps that not necessarily turn-based, but there is a little bit of time to kind of think and get your footing and think tactically. So that's maybe how they would approach it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. And again, there's rumors and discussions all over the place on what the time they want to, what windows they want to hit and stuff. It's probably a pretty safe bet, 2023, 2024 game.
Yeah, that was my guess. Late 2023 is my guess right
if
now.
Anything, holiday 2023, if not. But we'll see. I mean, I just hope it's also not the thing that every time Sony does a State of Play, which again has not been often lately, so we're probably not getting one for a long time. I just hope it's not that thing that shows up at every State of Play. I don't want it to be the next Deathloop, for lack of a better term. Deathloop's been showing up forever on every State of Play.
Tell me about it.
All right, yeah. So the next one was Project Eve, which is no, I have to take a quick look because for some reason I'm blanking out. This is the fake Bayonetta game, right?
Yeah, where she's fighting the giant monsters and stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, I for some reason blanked out when I looked at it. So yeah, this was a weird one, by Shift Up, coming to consoles, and it surprisingly looks interesting, at the same time almost generic, and I hate to say that. I hate to sound like down on it, but a lot of the mechanics look like Bayonetta. A lot of these things look just so extra Japanesey, almost slightly nearish in a way. It looked fast, kinetic. I just don't know, is this going to be a big full AAA release, like $60, $70 release? Is this going to be a smaller game? I know we saw this a while ago. I don't know if it was that. I want to say maybe 2019 we had seen this. I don't know if it had the name Project Eve, but it looks there. This is definitely something that I need to be almost convinced more to want to play it, because what is it? It really, we saw lots of flashy things and her jumping around and the suits, but what else is there? Yeah, the trailer was shot also very awkwardly. A lot of weird zoom-ins and stuff like that. But what do you think, Project Eve?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm pretty positive on what they showed. It looks pretty cool. We've seen kind of games like this before. I need to see how it actually runs, like in engine, in game, before I render really a hard judgment on whether I'm interested in getting it or not. one thing is when they were doing this trailer, I was trying to figure out what the hell it was the whole time, because I hadn't remembered seeing this game before. And like I was watching it, and the first thing I was like, okay, wait, is that Bayonetta? And I was like a Bayonetta spinoff or something, or is this like Bayonetta 3 where they're gonna have a new protagonist or something like that? And I was like, oh right, no, because I was getting like a lot of like demon angel imagery, and I was like, okay, so that looks kind of Bayonetta-y. But then I was like, no, this, and anyways, Bayonetta wouldn't be at a PlayStation conference unless something dramatic happened. Dramatic happened with the Nintendo deal, which as of right now we have no reason to feel like that's the case. So I was like, well, no, it can't be Bayonetta. And then I was like, is it Nier? And I was getting Nier vibes, but then I realized they were speaking Korean, and I was like, wait, then it's neither of those, because neither of those are very much Japanese games. And so yeah, it was kind of like a confusing at first, but then when they said Project Eve, I realized that I had read something about this game before. So I don't think this is the first time I ever heard that name before. But yeah, no, I mean, it's cool. It's just not enough. Again, and I mean this in a nice way, anybody could put together a really, really solid pre-rendered cutscene. It's a matter of how does that gameplay look. So it's one of those things that I'm kind of like withholding judgment until I can actually see the game running and stuff like that. Because there's plenty of games that I feel like come out and are just like absolute bangers, kind of like low-key ones that people don't really talk too much about, and that's kind of like the Scarlet Nexus, like Code Vein kind of world. Yeah. And then there's lots of ones that come out and they're just like kind of trash. So,
Yep.
So like who knows? And again, it's a fine line between this being its own thing and this being kind of DMC with a cute girl. So I'm gonna withhold my judgment for now until this comes, and I know this is going to pop up again, probably maybe at TGS, we'll see, but yeah. I'm excited to learn more, so that's at least a good thing. Okay, and going on to the next one, something that I think we could have all guessed that was going to appear here. I think there was two, obviously, that we knew, but Insomniac has Spider-Man 2 on the show floor there, and let me tell you, again, I understand that this was a pre-rendered cutscene, captured in PS5. That Spider-Man 2 trailer looks gorgeous. Yeah. I've seen it on the 4K on my monitors. I saw it on the phone, obviously, when it streamed, but they stream in 1080. Then I came home, saw it in 4K on my TV, and what an amazing look it has. You have a big theory, obviously, Kraven, the hunter, may be speaking at the beginning of it. It seems like he may be talking on over the trailer. You're seeing both Spider-Man. You get to see Miles and Peter doing their thing, taking enemies down separately, together in their full-fledged suits, looking great. And then the teaser that I didn't think we would get, though. You get a zoom in on a dark alley. We think, oh, here it is. They're gonna show Kraven, the next baddie. I don't know, maybe that was not spoilers. Spider-Man 1, it's a 2018 game. You gotta play by now. There's some Osborn teasers that we got, and the post-credit scene we saw in there. But no, they bring the big boy. We get Venom. Yeah. Venom's in Spider-Man 2. So exciting time. I know that's a day one buy for me. I'm pretty sure it's a day one buy for you. Of course.
The only thing, and not the only thing, but 2023, they were bold enough to give it a release date, which was I have my own theories on that, and I'll sit here for hours talking about that release date. Mainly that unless the game is way further along and they were able to really use a lot of the remaster stuff, I highly doubt that it'll hit. I don't think it's going to hit that 2023 release date. But bold move, just saying 2023. It gives you time. You can always move up a date, which is always a fantastic thing to do. So, Spider-Man 2. What do you think?
Yeah, when they revealed this, and obviously we're about to talk about the second thing that they revealed as well. Insomniac are just like nutcases. Like, I don't know how they're doing this, and I don't know how big this team is or what Sony. I don't know how they're doing this, but it's incredible the rate at which they're producing things at such like a ridiculously high level. And I look at these trailers, I'm like, boy, do these guys know how to use that PlayStation hardware, man. They like the way their games look in comparison to like some other thing. I'm like, man, do they know how to make that work? Like when you have like that, it's I get the same feeling when I play Insomniac games that when I played Mario Odyssey on the Switch for the first time. I was like, boy, does Nintendo know how to make this, because you haven't even seen anything on Switch play that well since then, pretty much. Yeah. And it's the same deal. Like Insomniac gets the PlayStation ecosystem, and Spider-Man 2 is like a no-brainer. We all knew that was coming, of course, and I'm just excited to see it. Now, my big question is how present Miles is in that trailer. And y'all, I'm not gonna go off. Y'all know I'm a Miles fanboy. Yeah. But he's like right there with Peter the entire time. And with them taking so much time and care into making Miles his own thing, having his own game, and a very different play style, like all different mechanics and stuff like that, that makes me wonder what his role in Spider-Man 2 is going to be. Like, is it going to be complementary, like Mary Jane in the first one, where maybe you play as him sometimes, or is this gonna be interchangeable to some degree, like a Spider-Man type situation, like two Spider-Man, which is no pun intended, Spider-Man 2, but so that's my question, is what Miles' role is going to be in this, and are you going to have like interchangeable protagonists with their own kind of upgrade systems, their own moves and stuff like that? That would be awesome. So you can play however you want, or you can play as both maybe. But yeah, I think that would be really, really dope, just because I noticed small things like that, where like how prominent Miles is in that trailer, and I can't help but feel that that's very purposeful, because there's lots of characters in Spider-Man 1. You have Black Cat with the DLC, Silver Sable, Mary Jane, tons of bad guys and stuff like that, but they made a conscious effort to have Miles right next to Peter, right there with Venom. And they're beating up bad guys together. They're slamming the guy down together, standing there together. So it makes me feel that this has to be more than just a narrative choice. That, Miles is now a Spider-Man as well, so he's going to be present in the story. I have a feeling that it has to be more than that. It has to be that you can play as either of those guys if you want. And it would be even more awesome if you go back and forth between them and they have their own stories in relation to each other. That would be awesome too. But again, that just could be, speculation on my end. But yeah, I'm very excited about that. 2023, it seems steep for any studio but Insomniac, I would say. Just because of the pace they're outputting right now. Because obviously they put Miles and Ratchet out in the same year. So, yeah, Miles was this year, right? Or was that late last year? I can't remember. But
Miles was launch game, so
yeah. So that was last year. Okay, but that wasn't that far away from each other. So it was less than a year that they had those two games. Same studio, different teams, I would imagine. And so and the Miles team, I would imagine, is the exact same team that would be working on Spider-Man 2 as well. So yeah, they haven't had a lot of time to really incubate with this, depending on how demanding Miles was. Miles was way more than just like a flip on the original one. They put way more work into it. So that tells me that Miles was its own project. I have a hard time believing that it wasn't a lot of the same guys who would be working on too. So 2023 seems very soon, unless it's very, very late and this is well along. That's my only guess. If they hit 2023, then this is well into development and it's going to pop up late 2023. I wouldn't be surprised if this slips into 2024 at all, considering what else they announced there too. But hey, if anybody could actually make that work, it'd probably be Insomniac. I need to look up how many people work at this company, because I'm just like, how are they doing this? Like, I mean, you take Sucker Punch and Naughty Dog and Santa Monica, and the time between they take, and it makes 100% sense why it takes them so long, considering at what they're putting out, how big God of War was, in 2018, and now they're coming, in 2022, 4-year incubation cycle. That makes tons of sense. How long Horizon took, and obviously Naughty Dog's kind of an anomaly. They take forever to put out things, justifiably so.
That's true.
Justifiably so. They're making movies out there, but Insomniac, man, they're like, they look, give us 18 months, we'll get you something new. Like, I don't know how they're doing that. I don't know. It's like, and maybe that secretly behind the scenes, they're pulling an Activision thing like with Call of Duty, and they got like 3 separate teams working continuously on different things. I don't know how they're making it work, but God bless them. I love it. But yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, and not even including the next title. If Spider-Man 2 does come out in 2023, in 5 years, they release Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Remaster, which took a little bit more extra work, and Ratchet and Clank, and Spider-Man 2. That's wild to think that in the 5-year span, they released basically 5 different titles. That's insane. Yeah,
it's insane.
But props to them, and Sony really, man, they made out so well with that studio purchase. And we might as well get right into it. Insomniac somehow is still making more video games than we thought. Out of nowhere. Not something that I think I saw leak anywhere. There was only one person. David Jaffe ended up hinting at this a week ago, but nobody noticed. Insomniac's also making another Marvel game, Wolverine. They're making a Wolverine game out of left field. We saw very, very, very little of this. We saw a busted up bar. We didn't even see Logan's face. We just saw a busted up bar, a nice flannel shirt, cowboy hat, and obviously the claws come out. So very little we saw, but I cannot tell you I am so excited for this. I think, like we just said and praised, Insomniac is more than capable of doing different projects. They know what they're going for. I can't wait to see what it is. I don't know where this really lands. If this is, I mean, you gotta assume it's sometime after Spider-Man 2 because they did not date Wolverine at all. So if they were, some people think Wolverine is next year. You're dreaming. Because if they gave Spider-Man 2 the 2023 date, you gotta think Wolverine 2024, 2025, if anything. It's gonna be way far out, unless we are completely wrong and they have a whole lot more beefing up with a studio that we don't know about, which is something we would not know if they hired a whole bunch of people. When they close studios and they rearrange studios, that's stuff that we don't see. That's behind the scenes. Unless that, here we go. We got a Wolverine game coming by someone we can definitely trust, Insomniac. What do you think? What a reveal! What a reveal!
Yeah, I mean, before I offer my thoughts, I went onto PlayStation Blog and I just want to read a brief little excerpt that they have there about this game. So this is the formal announcement blog post for both Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. And so this is what they say. In the vein of our Spider-Man games, our goal here is not only to respect the DNA of what that makes the character so popular, but also look for opportunities to make it feel fresh and truly reflect the Insomniac spirit. Even though Marvel's Wolverine is very early in development, from what I've seen of its emotional narrative and cutting-edge gameplay, see what I did there? The team is already creating something truly special. So when they say like emotional narrative, that tells me that this is going to be more than your just kind of run-of-the-mill hack-and-slash Wolverine game. That they're going to be diving into this character in a really deep, gritty, dark way is my anticipation with this, which is super exciting. And I've always said that I've wanted them to take time to not ground these characters, but take their time to really explore these characters and give them their own spirit and feel. And so there's always these kind of like arcadey, actiony type superhero games, which are awesome in their own regard. But like I've always said that I've always wanted that kind of like dark, detective-y Batman game. And when it came to Wolverine, I just always wanted this like super, almost Last of Us like grittiness for a Wolverine game in Canada, him hitting bars, investigating things, like just like that's Wolverine to me. And so it feels like they definitely understand how emotional of a character this is. And sometimes I feel like, with exception for like Logan, for example, that hasn't really fully been explored in kind of the modern interpretations outside of the comics for Wolverine. So I think they have an excellent opportunity to do that with this character here, where like one thing, they have him in that bar environment, which already is a step in the right direction for me. Because like that's Wolverine, like just him drinking, cutting it back, and just bar fighting people. That's pretty much what he does. That's why I always loved the beginning of like X-Men 1, the movie, where he's like cage fighting, and it's like that makes a lot more sense to me sometimes. And again, no offense to this, but like that kind of like yellow spandex suit version of him, like it just we've gotten many interpretations of Wolverine over the years, and it seems like they definitely get their head on right for this version of it. And yeah, I'm curious to see what the timetable is for this. We can all but assume it's obviously coming after Spider-Man 2, just in terms of timetable, with Spider-Man 2 being 2023. Wolverine, to be before it, would have to come out 2022, which is obviously not happening, unless they're absolute psychos over there. But so my guess is 2024, 2025. Which timeline-wise would put it in a very interesting spot in terms of the PlayStation's life cycle. So, so I'm just really interested to see when that kind of goes down. And obviously through the blog post, we had confirmation, it's very early in development. So we can guarantee, it is after Spider-Man 2. And I just wonder what sector of the team is working on what. Like, are these the Spider-Man 2 same people? So then that you would imagine that they're going to finish Spider-Man 2 and then go into Wolverine, which means that it's probably even farther off. I'm really, really excited about this, because obviously they have the people who make the Ratchet stuff, and they've made a lot of projects out there. So I'm just curious to see when this plays out, what this actually looks like. And also, is this a shared universe? I wonder, like, like is
Yeah, that's a big one I'm wondering too.
yeah, is Insomniac gonna try building something up? Everybody had questions about like whether Marvel's Avengers played any sort of role in the Spider-Man universe, and obviously over time that's pretty much been guaranteed. No, not really. And then some people, which I don't share this thought, but some people are like, oh, maybe the Spider-Man and Guardians, the upcoming Guardians game. And I was like, it doesn't seem like it. If anything, Guardians is in the same universe as Avengers. But
as the Avengers.
Yeah. And I still feel like they're probably disconnected. But if anything, that makes more sense to me. But now with this sharing a developer, this makes me wonder, like, how awesome, with kind of what they're doing over there with the Arkham games and having a shared universe on the DC side over there on Warner Brothers. How awesome would it be if like Insomniac has their own little MCU, or not MCU, but Marvel shared universe via video games? How awesome would that be? It would come out way slower, obviously, because it's one developer contributing to it. But that makes me kind of excited to see, like, it would be really awesome if like Wolverine could possibly lead to an X-Men game, which could possibly also exist within the Spider-Man universe, and all being done by Insomniac at that level sounds phenomenal. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, really cool. And they also have confirmed that it is Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine will be PS5 games, not a cross-gen. And obviously with that timetable they gave, I would be astounded if in 2023 we're still getting cross-gen games like that.
I think that's fair too. Just that gives enough time. Like, I understand some people like get upset when things are cross-gen, but it's like, guys, like, you have to think like how many people don't have the consoles yet. But by 2023, I think it's probably going to be a little bit better. I think it's going to be 100% remedied. No, not necessarily, but I think the console will be more accessible than it is now. So I think that's fair.
So yeah, it makes sense. All right, so the next one that we pretty much assumed we were going to see, and I think we had to see, I think it would have been a huge mistake if we didn't, God of War Ragnarok. Finally confirmed that's the title, God of War Ragnarok. And we saw a lot of it. And now, in the best way possible, it is more God of War. I don't want it to sound like I'm coming at it, because I know people have been kind of negative on it. This looks like the sequel to 2018's God of War. It looks like exactly what I expected it to be. Atreus being older, you're seeing a few new gods. We got a closer look at Thor, which, I mean, there's no spoiler really, because the trailer shows it. Thor shows up in the post-credit scene of the original God of War, of 2018 God of War. I'm glad that they went with this super Norse look for him, nice and fat,
I love
big and bulgy. The red hair, which is what he's supposed to be. He doesn't look like Hemsworth, which is the big thing, obviously, which is would be really cool for them to do that. It may be like the Avengers, to not get even close to that retrospect. Atreus is older. We see all these we see a lot of returning characters. We see a lot of older characters, and I think the game looks great. The game looks exactly like what I wanted to. I'm kind of flabbergasted over the fact that they didn't date it. When again, it's weird when they're comfortable saying Spider-Man 2 is 2 years away. You're not comfortable saying that the game you said was going to launch this year is going to launch next year. You didn't even say 2022. You didn't give it any sort of window, fall 2022. Slightly worried there. But the game, from what we've seen, unless this was a super tight vertical slice, the game looks like it's probably playable from front to back. You're probably doing all that extra lore, and the writing team is probably finishing up a few things, maybe remocapping a few things. But the game looks great. I mean, the game looks fantastic. So I know I'm excited. Obviously, it's another one. It's probably going to be day one purchase, if not even pre-installed, for God of War.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Love the character design. Tyr showed up as well. Their God of War. I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving these new character designs. That's one thing I loved about the newest or the 2018's God of War, is just the amazing character design. And obviously we're getting a similar vein. Them changing directors is an interesting move, but watching the interview with them, it seems like they're all in a good spot right now, and he seems like he has a really good hold. He's obviously been involved with the franchise for forever, so I have nothing but faith in his ability to deliver a really solid game as well. And yeah, I love Thor's look, man. Like that was awesome. It's just giving them a more accurate look. That's what I loved about the first one so much, is that when you had like the gods that were present in there, they had a very kind of like, dark Norse look, not something that is more familiar based on what you'd see like in the MCU, for example, which I feel like is a very kind of like commercial approach to it. Where this one, it's way more kind of like rustic and connected to the original mythology. So I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. And I like just the vibe, the idea of fighting chunky Thor. Like, he looks way more powerful to me, chunky, to be honest with you, than kind of like Chris Hemsworth. Which, again, not to crap on Chris Hemsworth version, because I like him as well. But yeah, this Thor definitely, again, he's like a partier guy, like a guy who like is like a Norse god that like fights and drinks all the time, probably would look like that and eats all the time.
Yes. And
that makes a lot more sense.
What he's supposed to. Yeah. No, that's really cool. And yeah, on the whole director thing, that is interesting that Corey, something we kind of knew and he's hinted at for a while, that, Cory Barlog is not the director of God of War Ragnarok. He's still the producer, so he's still working on it. But he's kind of confirmed that he's working on something else, which is exciting. Which, again, for all of 2019, all of 2020, he was hinting at something sci-fi. So I wonder what's going on there. But excited for that.
Yeah, super dodgy about when people are asking him about it. So it didn't necessarily surprise me when I was like, well, yeah. Anybody who paid attention knew he wasn't going to be the director. It's just a matter of when they were going to formally say something and what he's doing.
Yeah, and the whole "I've never heard of it" thing, and then finally he's like, "Yeah, okay, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I've effing heard of it," and that was great. I love him. Then we got Gran Turismo 7, something else we knew we'd see at the show. I mean, and I don't have much to say of this. It looks like Gran Turismo. It looks really great. It's gonna be another cross-gen game. Early March. I think March 3rd is the release date. It looks good. I'm not super into the more sim style of this, so this is the answer to the Forza Motorsports series. You and I play more of the Horizon. We like more of that arcadey stuff, but I gotta give credit where credit due. The game looks great. It looks obviously as photorealistic as you probably can get. I'm sure it'll look great. I think they spent a little too much time in the menus. They showed a lot of the menus for Gran Turismo, which I thought was weird, but I know that this is a huge game for people. This is a system seller for some people, much like MLB and stuff was. So Gran Turismo looks great. What do you think?
So I'm pretty positive about it. Again, as you said, I'm definitely more of a like Forza Horizon type guy. But I'll probably get this. I mean, it's been a while since Polyphony has really dropped anything, so I kind of want to give them a shot. I like the really old Gran Turismo games. I have them all in like the old PlayStation and PlayStation 2. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while since I've played like a brand new, like newer Gran Turismo game, because again, I've gone kind of full Forza. So the last Gran Turismo game I played, I think, was like 3 or 4, many years ago. So I'm really excited to jump into this, give it a shot. Again, I'm not really into the sim thing, but I'm curious. I want as many opportunities as possible to see people really extracting power out of this new hardware. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm kind of excited to jump into it. And again, Forza is going to be free, or not free, but Game Pass. So if anything, I could rationalize and be like, hey, the $70 I would have spent on Forza, if anything, I could just put towards Gran Turismo, and I'll get it in March. So
very true. Next up, Uncharted 4 remastered. So coming to PC and PlayStation 5, we're getting Uncharted 4, which will bring in the Lost Legacy, which is the standalone DLC that came out to Uncharted 4. This makes a lot of sense. Everyone, the Uncharted collection runs patched on PS4 Pro, so essentially on PS5 as well, with 64K. Uncharted 4 was always kind of the odd man out that ran worse, technically, but I've never played the Lost Legacy. I do think this is super weird that this collection is coming to PC. Not that I don't want the titles there, but it's weird to tell you're bringing the last one to PC and the collection's not coming. So super awkward there and super weird there. But another just thing showing that Sony is taking their time and hopefully doing it right, putting these games on PC. Makes a lot of sense. I don't think I'm gonna be jumping into this because there is no upgrade chart right now or anything like that. I'm not in the mood to do Uncharted 4 again right now. Maybe at some point when I want to blast through all the games again, that'll be fun. Lost Legacy is something I've been waiting for to play. I always thought it maybe come to PS Plus. Never has, but again, to buy the remaster just to play the Lost Legacy when I can just get Lost Legacy I remember when I worked at GameStop, Lost Legacy would go on sale for like $10 brand new. So it's maybe not the biggest thing. Maybe I'll do it on PC just to check out how the games are running on PC. But yeah, interesting. A little something for Uncharted.
Yeah, I definitely want to play Lost Legacy. I haven't been able to play that either, so this might be an opportunity for me to jump into it. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts. It makes sense to me. The main thing I'm like confused, not even confused about. I'm like, I don't like the fact that it's like Uncharted 4 remastered, because it's not that old. You don't have to remaster. Like, if you look at the term like remastering, like you don't have to remaster a game from like 4 years ago. But all right, but yeah, I like the game, and it's been long enough for me to maybe jump back into it. Maybe we'll see when it comes out on PS5 or whether it's time for me to jump back in. But what I'm playing at that point. But if it's a lull, I'll definitely happily jump into it, because it's been a while since I've even touched Uncharted 4. To be honest, and I know this is like heresy, I don't think I beat Uncharted 4. So yeah, I know I'm a naughty boy. But so that might be my time to like close that gap, because I played all the rest. But obviously not being Uncharted 4 is like heresy to like any PlayStation fan, so I might have to go back and take care of that.
Yeah, maybe. Alright, next up was, now I keep finding two different ways to pronounce it. I pronounce it Chaya?
Yeah.
Chaya?
Chia, yeah, I don't know.
So that was shown off, it's a little bit more artistic game. Now, I'm full for these kind of games. I think this was very misplaced. In the State of Play was very edgier, hardcore titles, like full-fledged titles. To slap this in the middle, I feel like is a disservice to the game.
I agree completely.
It's a little bit, you just didn't have a lot of this kind of stuff there. So to be the one and only one there, I felt bad, because there's probably a lot of people fucking freaking eye rolling or whatever. So it's interesting. But the game looks a little interesting. I'm curious to see a little bit more of it. I know it has its open worlds, like physics game. Climbing, sailing, and all that kind of stuff. I know they were talking. There's like a fully playable ukulele in there. I don't really know what it is, but I mean, it's interesting. It looks like one of those more indie artsy kind of games, which again really just depends, when and where this comes out. When I'll get a chance to play it. Well, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I'm actually really positive on this game, and I'm so glad you said that. I felt the exact same way when I saw it, where I'm like, man, you violated these guys. Like, you put them in such an awkward position where now a lot of the people who were watching all these crazy announcements of these massive first-party games are going to see this game and they're like, get this crappy RC stuff out of here. When like I feel like it was just super misplaced. Like, I think the very top or ending of like a PlayStation Indies thing or any kind of other conference, I think would have made more sense then. And maybe a different placement on the show maybe would have been a little bit better, but just putting it smack dab right in the middle there amongst all these crazy massive games was a disservice to the game tremendously. I'm very positive about this game. I think I'd probably jump into this game. I like games like this, and I like the soul jumping mechanic that they have. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I just feel like they super violated them so unnecessarily, because if you just read the games around, like KOTOR, Project Eve, Spiderman 2, Wolverine, and then Chia, like, come on, man, that's not fair to them. It makes them look crazy, because I feel like these are different bases, like different demographics who are into these type of games. Like, a game like this would have murdered at a Nintendo conference, I bet. But unfortunately, just because of the placement and the games that it's kind of couched in between, it makes it look kind of crazy. But hopefully they get another chance to kind of come out there and properly show what they got to offer without the kind of being overshadowed by a lot of these other games at some point.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe when Sony sometimes does those like small indie type deals, the indie State of Players or whatever, and hopefully it comes back in that format or at another show completely. 'Cause I don't think that's an exclusive. I do believe that's
That'll probably be everywhere.
multi-platform thing. We got again another look at GTA 5, the next gen. Again, we physically looking at it, it looks the same. I know they talk about all this other great stuff. One big thing that they avoided saying is that this update to GTA 5, the PS5 version, was supposed to be this fall, and now it's in March, so it's been delayed. It's GTA 5, and it's gonna look a little bit better. I run a little bit better. I don't really know what else to say. I thought this was gonna go hand in hand with the announcement of the PS2 trilogy HD or whatever remasters or something. But no, it's just GTA 5. The PS5 patch will be out sometime next year. I think March, they said. I know you still slightly dabble in the GTA. You're broken up about it, or is this kind of really, it'll come when it comes?
Yeah, and I mean, dabble might be an understatement because I literally put in like 5 hours last week, but because I'm terrible. I hate that I like this game so much. But yeah, no, I mean, I was kind of disappointed by obviously the delay because again, I already think, okay, this is coming from a GTA 5 player. Like, I play this game very often. I put in hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. That I think it's a stupid decision, to be honest, and I think it's a waste of time, to be honest. This has already gotten cleaned up for PlayStation 4 because it was a PlayStation 3 game. That's how old this freaking game is. Like, it came out originally in 2012. Yeah, or 2012 or 2013. 2013, actually. 2013. But it's been forever, and like this game, I can't believe that they're releasing another version of it. The visuals that I saw, I was not blown away by. I saw some new things there as somebody who plays. Like, I saw some penthouse adjustments and stuff like that. So obviously adding some stuff into there, but it just getting delayed to May. It's like, I mean, I already feel like this is kind of a waste of time. And I'm sure it's going to be financially supportive of them, but it's like it's like them delaying something that I feel like should have probably not even happened in the first place, and I feel like their efforts are better used elsewhere, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, like, am I gonna? First off, am I gonna get it? I don't know if how this works, if this is a free upgrade or whatever. But if it's paid, if it's not that expensive, I'll probably jump into it. But again, I think it's a stupid move to begin with. I think all hands should probably be on freaking GTA 6 by now than GTA 5 more. And this is coming from a GTA 5 player regularly. I also think it's a massive waste of time and stupid. And I think it was annoying for them to finally drop like the next gen announcement formally in visuals. And it's all visuals. I mean, some of them are literally pulled from the original trailer. A good chunk of them, and all the new stuff didn't look that crazy. So that's the one thing that kind of bummed me out the most, is like, this is finally the PS5 version that I guess some people have been waiting for, and it looks nicer. But first off, I've seen mods that look better than that, and then second off, it's not showing off that much new stuff. Maybe they're just playing coy for now, and once it's closer to March, they'll drop some new stuff. But as a GTA fan, I was kind of a little disappointed by that.
Yeah, it's I completely agree. I'm just kind of I'm at the point I'm tired. It's Skyrim. It's like the Skyrim situation.
Literally.
Again. Yeah. So next up, Forspoken was showing off a little bit more, which I for some reason forget about this game a little bit, and then I see it again, and I get kind of excited. It looks cool. You know, the mix of that sort of grounded Earth world, and then it gets all fantasy. The gameplay. My thing is for Forspoken. Again, we saw a little bit more voice acting, cutscenes. I need to see one of those gameplay deep dives because I need to see what 15 minutes of this game is from start to finish. What am I doing constantly? What do the enemies look like? What's the traverse look like? And I know we've seen very few of that and a little bit of here and there. You know, what a trailer should do. But unfortunately, I don't think it's being portrayed correctly. So that's why I want to see what that moment-to-moment gameplay really looks like. But the little we have seen, I mean, I'm interested. It looks good. From just like a gut check to it, you know, Gary Whitta is writing it. Anyone's a fan of Rogue One, that writing, so Gary Whitta's connected to it. So I'm interested. The terms they use. Oh, it's an action role playing game. That's kind of generic. To be told that. Square Enix is helping with the publishing, and I know they're saying 2022. So we'll see. I mean, some of the dialogue, I don't know, was a little weird to me. It was almost a little too cagey, sort of trying to be comedic, and I didn't care for it. I don't know if it's just me. Just some of the way they were speaking seemed a little bit weird. It seemed almost, it was just funny because later we'll talk about it in a little Borderlands-y almost, in a sense. But besides that, it's one of those games I got my eye on it, and I'll wait before I make full-on judgments. What do you think, Forspoken?
Yeah, I mean, I we've seen this game before, and this just really cemented. Like, I think this game looks really, really awesome. And you said a ton of the stuff that I was pretty much going to say too, so we're on the same wavelengths here. I just want to see that moment-to-moment gameplay. They showed some kind of navigational things. I just want to see, like, hey, if you pick up controller, you hit start, and you start playing the game, what does that actually look like on a moment-to-moment? That's what I'm kind of curious about. I like a lot of the design of the game. It looks beautiful. It looks like it's running really, really well. I'm a little bit... I won't play coy with you. That dialogue was cringe. Like, it was terrible. I felt like the dialogue was awful. Which, again, I love Gary Whitta, so I don't know. I'm not necessarily putting that on him. I don't know how much of the dialogue he's in charge of. Sometimes games have multiple writers that he'll, like, lay out the scenarios and the larger stuff, but the smaller, like, dialogue-based stuff could be somebody else. I don't know. But, yeah, no, that was terrible. But other than that, no, I'm really positive about this game. I definitely want to get it. Before I fully am ready to pull the trigger, I just want to see what that actually looks like. And like how the combat's looking, how dynamic the combat is, and stuff like that. So I have a couple questions for it, but generally I like a lot. I like the protagonist's main design and stuff like that too. So yeah, I'm feeling it.
Yeah, cool. Ghostwire Tokyo was shown again, and more in its full-fledged state. This game's been kind of on the chopping block. People feel like it lost its director, its creative director, and a lot of mismatch and a whole lot of stuff, but we saw finally some what the gameplay looks like, and it's actually a first-person sort of action. It's a little bit more actiony than I thought it would be. I do like the sort of yokai haunting feel of it. I like the sort of aesthetic of it. I wonder what environments are going to look like, because we're seeing a lot of the same. Obviously, I understand that it's Tokyo, but it looks very samey from a little bit. We see a lot of as a joke, I was saying, fake jitsu attacks and things like that, that we see. But it looks like it's got a cool vibe to it. But it's also one of those things like, what else do you do in this game besides fight these guys? And again, I guess closer to launch, maybe they'll take a little bit more time to really pump up and show you what you do. But it's also kind of getting into that Deathloop tutorial like time where we're getting to see this game so often, but nobody really knows what the game is. Like, I could not tell you. I have not done crazy research. I look at a few screenshots, a few trailers, and I'm like, but I don't want to overindulge myself and either spoil it or not even get interested in the game, because so far I like it. I like what it looks like, the little I think is going to do, but it's like, how does that transpire into a 10, 20, 25-hour experience just doing what is really what I need to see. But I like what it looks like. Are you still interested in Ghostwire?
Yeah, I'm super sold on the concept. I just don't necessarily know about the execution quite yet. And I believe this is Tango, right? Who's doing this game?
Yep.
I think it's Tango.
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, and I guess my main question is, what is this game actually? Because again, I understand that you're fighting yokai, and that's really, really awesome. It looks cool. I love the designs of them. The gameplay looks really dynamic and well choreographed and well animated. But I guess my main concern is, like, is this like a survival game? Is this kind of like a narrative game where they drop you down a street and there's story stuff going around? Is this kind of an open world exploration game where you literally just randomly bump into these enemies as you're doing stuff around the city? I have no clue what this is, and I don't know if that information's been disclosed or not, and I haven't done the research or what. I don't know. But I just have a lot of questions about what this game is, because that'll make or break it for me. If there's kind of like a central story to this and they just happen to be showing you clips from that story, then I'm absolutely with it. If it's kind of like a classic like wave-based horde mode survival game where they throw like almost like a zombies mode where they throw out like random yokai, and as you go deeper and deeper into the city it throws harder and harder things to you, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be something I'm interested to play just because of that gameplay loop. So I just need more information about this. But as of right now, I like Tango. I like what they do. I love the imagery that they're playing around with. Did you look it up? Is it Tango?
So it is Tango Gameworks.
Okay,
Bethesda.
Yeah, so I like the team. I like the stuff they've done before. I love the whole yokai imagery in general. But I just need a little bit more information before I would say I'm completely sold on it.
Yeah, and I'm again just quickly looking over their Wikipedia. There's not much. It just says the plot: all the Tokyo citizens have vanished, and it says you fight these ghosts. So it's just considered an action adventure game, which again, generic title just to
Yeah, that can mean a lot of
everything.
things. So.
Yeah. Blood Hunt the Masquerade. So the Blood Hunt the is this the correct one? Am I looking at? I'm not confusing myself, am I?
Blood Hunt is the battle royale vampire.
The vampire,
right?
it is right, but it is the Masquerade. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's like Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt or something.
Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, which again, this franchise is I know it's a tabletop like pen and paper RPG
yep.
came from, and I know they're making tons of versions. I know there's a few visual novels that came out to Steam, and I remember seeing a little bit of the Blood Hunt. They showed a little bit. Surprisingly, the gameplay looks really fun, but then just being a battle royale completely drops it for me. And I saw so this game is coming out to PS5. I know it's on beta, I think, right now on PC, because I've seen a lot of gameplay. And again, the moment to moment looks fun, running around, being a vampire in like sort of that current day, modern day thing is cool. But then it's just a battle royale, and then there's nothing really else to it, unfortunately. So I immediately was just like, I kind of lost. Like I was excited, and then I immediately lost steam on it, because I was like, I don't want to play a battle royale. I don't really get what it is, especially when you have this whole world and that's what you're putting all your eggs into. But again, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe it's something I'll get into way later on, but I doubt it. It's probably, to me, it's just another Vampire the Masquerade game in this universe, while everyone's waiting for that real one that's to come out, or the sequel to come out. So yeah, more Vampire the Masquerade. You interested? What's your really thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked fire just from the trailer, but the thing is, I'm not into the multiplayer thing. So yeah, I don't have a problem inherently with battle royale games. I just don't really like playing multiplayer games in general like that. So while I was looking at it, I could already tell with all the different teams. I was like, oh, this seems like a multiplayer game, and I'm like, yeah. Again, I'm not upset about it. I think that's probably a very smart move in terms of just making a certain kind of gameplay style that's going to appeal to people. It's just not really for me. But I love the idea. I love the characters' designs, and I love the fact that they have all these different types of vampires. I love that they play around with the heavier lore, because again, so many things just have vampires, but you have the Nosferatu and all these different groups and stuff like that. So that's really, really dope, and I love the way it looks. It looks really, really fun as well. But it's just not really my cup of tea in terms of just the battle royale thing.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. Then we got another look at Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Specifically, it's titled that way, and we finally got to see a little bit more of it, and it just looks like more Borderlands. It looks like fantasy Borderlands. And I know there's a lot of other stuff into it. There's that chibi section when they had like big heads and then walking around. I actually think that the whole fantasy style works really well. The fantasy like lore with that Borderlands style looks really well. I'm not a big fanboy or Tiny Tina the way people love Tiny Tina, her voice and the voice actress and all that kind of stuff in the lore. And they were just so overly cagey and cringy and just so extra when you didn't need to, because the gameplay actually looked kind of cool. You have these crazy creatures. That part where like the shark jumps and like they blow up the shark in the sky, loot going everywhere. I'm surprised they're trying to like it's connected to Borderlands, but really not. They're playing like an RPG, and it's really, I don't know, it's so weird where it's like so meta in a sense, even the ending where she's like, oh, there's no after credit scene, this is not an MCU movie or whatever she says. It looks kind of interesting, but again, I'm kind of Borderlands out, and this looks a little bit more like Borderlands. It's kind of just a different era. I mean, you have different voice actors coming out in there. I heard Adam Sandberg is in it, if I was correct. From Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But we'll have to kind of see. Are you excited for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands?
Well, okay, so I guess it would start out. Yeah, I would love to go back into Borderlands. I don't really know about Borderlands like that. I've never played Borderlands 3. I beat 1 and I got like halfway through 2, so I'm not the guy to talk about this stuff. I need to go back to it, and I would really, really love to once I get the chance. So I'm not really a Borderlands guy, so I don't have much to say on this. All I would say is this trailer I think made me a little bit more positive about it than I was originally. I was a little bit concerned that does this have its own identity, and I know it's gonna have obviously that proximity to Borderlands, but watching this this trailer, I was like, okay, so it really is its own thing. and I could appreciate it from that regard. Again, it's not necessarily a thing that I think really appeals to me, but I think they're doing a good job with kind of giving it its own identity, its own quirks and stuff like that. And I think for people who are invested in the Borderlands lore, and especially who like, I guess, this Tiny Tina character, I think they'll really, really like it. And yeah, so like I can appreciate the way the art style works in a fantasy setting is really, really interesting. Seeing that for the first time, because again, I when I think of that, the Borderlands style, I think of that kind of like deserty mechanic look, and so seeing it in the fantasy world, I think is actually pretty dope. It makes me want to see what else they can do in that world. Outside of this, what other spin-offs they can possibly launch and stuff like that. So I would say I'm positive about it, but in the way that I'm like, it's not really for me. I probably will never play this, but I'm pretty positive about it, I guess.
I feel like that's gonna be something that shows up on Game Pass. I don't know why. I have no inkling. I feel like it. I do like that it's its own thing. It's not like called Borderlands anything. It's just Tiny Tina. It looks like you'll be able to play this without connection to not worrying about like Borderlands lore, because yeah,
I got to talk to you about Borderlands when I start my playthrough. Maybe that'll be next.
Yeah. Maybe I'll play through them with you.
Yeah.
All right, then we got to see Guardians of the Galaxy again, and nothing's really changed in my opinion. I know we discussed this pretty in depth during its E3 reveal. I still have issues with some of those characters' specific designs, especially with each other, where some are a little bit more comic accurate and some are more MCU accurate, which is weird. I feel like you gotta really choose one. Obviously, I would go full comic. But again, this characters still look kind of off. The game does just look like what I think it would look like. I was surprised to see it at this state of play, because this looked like the exact same trailer we saw back in E3, so I could not differentiate anything new they showed. They showed some spaceship, they showed you playing, obviously we know you play as Peter and you call in the team and you make some weird decisions. The game looks exactly like what we saw in the summer, so I don't have too much more new to say about it.
Yeah, me neither. A lot of the thoughts I have now are pretty much the same thoughts I had then. The music's still kind of off to me. I think they got to figure out that license situation.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, yeah, I think they still look off. I'm definitely getting this game. I think it looks really fun. There's some small aesthetic problems that I have with it. But yeah, I pretty much feel the same way as I did the first time.
Yeah. So, but again, maybe I do feel more positive on this than I did, maybe say Avengers.
Oh yeah,
but it's because it seems like it knows what it's doing a little bit better.
Stinker.
Yeah.
No, it's not that bad.
But the next up, I've been saying it all day pretty much. Yeah, we got Deathloop again. We all understand Deathloop is Arcane Studios. I'm pretty excited for this. I was excited for this game. I kind of went empty on it. I usually try to avoid watching all these new trailers that they do and these other nonsense they do. I still don't really understand the game. I know you're playing an assassin who's stuck in a time loop and you keep waking up and you gotta hunt other people. It's sort of roguelike, but I'm curious on it. I'm tired. I am tired of seeing it. Luckily, at the time of this recording, it comes out in 2 days. Yep. So reviews and embargoes will start going up, and hopefully will help convince me to because it is timed PlayStation 5 exclusive for a while. At least hopefully, it'll show. I was a big fan of Dishonored. I never played their Arcane's Prey game that they did, but I played the two Dishonored games, so I thought that was really fun. This obviously looks like it's a way different style. So I'm curious to see what does that look like what does it look like to play this game? What is it when I sit down and launch Deathloop? And I think that's what's the reviews and embargoes are actually going to kind of help me decide to go for it or not go for it. Pull the trigger in a sense on Deathloop. What are your quick thoughts on Deathloop? Are you getting this? Are you day one in it, or are you waiting?
Yeah, I'm super conflicted on Deathloop. So not too long ago, like 2 days ago, I went and I watched like all the trailers. I watched IGN stuff. I read some reviews. Like I read as much as I could on it to find out what this game is about and whether it's for me. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence on this one. Like, there's a lot. Mm-hmm. Everything about the imagery and some of the gameplay screams to me like, absolutely. I like the Dishonored games quite a bit. I also haven't played Prey, but I love Dishonored. And so from that perspective, sure. But it's that kind of like loop. You're going to die and you're going to restart thing. And you get a little farther each time, almost like a roguelike. Like,
mm-hmm.
those are very hit or miss for me. Certain ones have really, really hit, like Hades, and then other ones have not, like Binding of Isaac. And so I don't know, like, I like forward progression, and I like spending that, 15, 20 hours kind of going through a story and experiencing it. And so I don't know if I'm trying to, like, play things over and over again, try things a different way. Like, that gameplay style, I don't know if it's my favorite thing in the world. And so I'm really conflicted on it. So I like what obviously there's no point in me saying like I've seen enough of it. It's coming out in 2 days, so but yeah, I'm conflicted about it. I'm probably gonna wait until I know some more people who get it and get their thoughts on it, and that'll maybe sway me one direction or another.
Yeah, same way. And the PS Plus has had like a discount on the game for a while.
Yeah, it's like 54 or something like that.
Yeah, and I wonder if that has to do with the whole Bethesda Arcane purchase and stuff like that. But yeah, I gotta see what people are feeling, because like you said, I jived with Returnal really quickly for a little while. But when a point of the game is not to make you feel like you're progressing, it's not for me. That Demon Souls, all those, I'm over trying to play everything and trying to force myself to like that stuff. So if this game is not a little bit more structured, where I can know what I'm doing and not just by random I'm dying or random I'm being hunted by the lady who hunts you, then it may not be for me, which is fine. I can appreciate the game. I don't care. The game could get 10 out of 10s, and it just may not be for me. That's just how it works.
Yeah, sometimes when you get older, like, your time is more precious, and that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, I don't necessarily have the time I had when I was like 15 to just grind things out sometimes. So it's like, if I have to spend 25, 30 hours to just learn this to make, a little bit more progress, that was fine then. Now it's like, I just don't have as much time, so it's like, I don't know if I'm trying to grind things out, which is why I knew, like, Returnal's not going to be for me. Like, if I get my teeth kicked in over and over again, it's like, yeah, but if you stay with it, it's like, I don't got time to stay with it, man. Like, exactly. That's what makes me conflicted about it.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. And the last bit of the last announcement they had was I still don't really get. I mean, I get it, it's the whole exhibition, but Kid A Amnesia exhibition, which is the Radiohead Epics collaboration, where they said an upside-down digital analog universe created from the original artwork and recordings to commemorate 21 years of Radiohead's Kid A and Amnesiac, coming this November 2021. And we didn't really get much else to look at or to really see there. So what the little we did see, what did you think?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to pull from there. I like Radiohead a lot, so I was like,
same.
Yeah, when they announced this, I was like, okay, like there's not a single Radiohead album that I've disliked, so I'll go into this whatever it is. I don't know what this is, but so it's one of those things where it's like I'm sold by the music artist by themselves, and they've always been so insanely creative with the imagery that they play with, so I have no doubt that this is probably going to be a pretty revolutionary experience. But beyond that, I don't really have that many thoughts until I'm able to actually jump into it.
Yeah, I have that same kind of feeling. The closest thing I can compare it to, there was some VR stuff that did it on some of those apps that are on there that were like certain specific musicians did like cool little experiences and stuff. I don't know what this one's gonna look like. I don't know if it's on board with that kind of stuff, because it's not a VR thing. They didn't say it was a VR thing. We're just listening to artist interpretation of certain tracks, concert style. Is this a free thing, a paid thing? What's exactly the epic part? I just don't know. It's one of those things. We were given 40 seconds. 20 of it was the PlayStation logo, and the rest was flashing red things, pyramid, and like wall paintings. I guess we'll have to see in November what this actually looks like.
Yeah, I really want to support it. Just not only because I love Kid A, because that's a great album, but on top of that, I like this collaborative thing. I'm like, if this is really cool and it's some cool like music art exhibition thing and it actually does well, I would love to see that for other bands as well too. Because like when I think Radiohead, I'm like, oh man, imagine if Tool did this. How awesome would that be? Like people who play around with like insane imagery and stuff like that. So there's lots of artists that I think could also do this that I think would be really, really dope. Additional to Radiohead. I'm definitely gonna give this a try. I'm having a hard time like visualizing what this would even like look like. I'm like I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to. Yeah, that's another one. We're just like, all right, well, it's kind of exciting because we don't know what it is. But not too far off. November 2021. They're saying
we need the Gorillas exhibition.
Yeah. If this is a thing, that's one of the first ones I want.
That's one of the first ones I want. Yeah, those were the first two I went to, Tool and Gorillas, and I was like, if I can get both of those two, Tools would be horrifying, but Gorillas would be fun.
But that was the state of play. That was it. Finally, a pretty strong one. I think it was a long time coming. They've been so hush hush and showing us a lot of Ratchet and Horizon for what seems like forever. So luckily we finally have some stuff to look forward to. Very solid state of play. I mean, maybe not perfect, maybe not perfectly paced. I think 40 minutes was a little too long. You definitely could have dropped a few of these guys. I don't think Uncharted needed to be in there. GTA doesn't need to be in there.
Get GTA out of there.
I don't think Deathloop. I mean, the Deathloop comes out in a week from that day, so definitely could have tightened it up from that 40, almost 50 minutes. Probably could have been a nice 30.
I agree.
Better. Would have been even better because it would have just been banger after banger, and then ended off really well.
Nintendo style.
But all in all, really happy we finally got a state of play, and we have a little bit more blueprint of what the next couple years are going to look like for PlayStation.
Exactly, and I was going to say I'm actually really positive on it. This state of play was better than a lot of people's E3 showings, so that says something.
Absolutely.
So that's impressive, man. I was just like watching this. I was like, you see, this is kind of what I wanted from E3. Now, was this a perfect conference? Of course not, and you laid out perfectly the exact criticisms I have of it. But I mean, thinking of this, I'm like, man, good for Sony to be able to just put out a state of play like this and be better than people's like entire E3 showings for like everything they have. This is just kind of like a quick thing, like, hey, this is what we have on the horizon. Not everything we have on the horizon, but a good chunk of things.
Yeah, everyone's really lucky that Sony didn't go to E3 this year, because if this is what they would have pulled up on E3, you gotta. I mean, even the stuff that's far announced, these trailers were probably done already by then. They would have just dominated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just a chance,
just having KOTOR in there, KOTOR, Ragnarok, Wolverine, and Spiderman would have just that's it right there. That first 15 minutes would have destroyed E3.
Yeah, literally. So yeah, when I finished that, I was like, yo, man, what are the rest of you guys doing? Like, I watched this, I was like, yo, get it together. Get it together, Square.
Yeah, those Xbox shows that they constantly keep doing, they don't look so good anymore.
No, I love Xbox, but man, sometimes it's like, where are the games? Where are they? Like, because they buy these teams, and I'm just like, where the hell are those games? And I know things take a while, but the initiative has to have something soon, right? Like you would imagine. So it's been years since they've created that place.
It's been forever. So where you at, Xbox? It's their turn now. It's like, let's go. Let's get a. You keep having Paris host everything. Get Paris on there to show us some new games.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Game Awards is what 2 or 3 months.
That's always usually in December. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe hopefully Xbox has something there. Nintendo might have a little something on there. So
yeah, we haven't seen Perfect Dark since its announcement at last Game Awards. So
true. Perfect Dark. I want. I mean, the initiative has to give us something.
It's time. It's time.
They have a whole bunch of teams, and Obsidian also has Avowed, which is their like Skyrim
That's
thing.
Very true.
I want to see that again too. So yeah, I mean, Xbox has some things in the horizons. It's just I don't know where the hell they are.
It's time for that competition again.
All right, so probably one of our longest shows, and I expected that to reach that. So appreciate you guys staying with us. So this was the NeoVintage podcast. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks or so. This is Jabril, and I'm here with
Steve.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.